Suddenly, the descent occurred, bringing with it fantastic items from another world to ours. And in one night, everyone gained superpowers, transforming the world into a place of complete chaos caused by the powerful. Our hero, Han, is a regular otaku who naturally desires a life filled with many girlfriends. But he never expected that among those items from another world, women would also appear. So far, the place where they came from remains unknown, but all of them share the same goal. They want to capture the protagonist, but for him, it doesn't matter what their purpose is because as soon as they knock on his door, they must know the consequences. And as an otaku who has always wished for girls, he couldn't miss this opportunity. Therefore, Han hopes these women who want to capture him keep coming. After all, this is how he will protect the world and fulfill his nerdy dream. In recent days, a mysterious game called Post-Apocalyptic suddenly became popular all over the internet. Many gaming enthusiasts became addicted to it. But what's hard to understand is that the developer remains unknown, as if the game appeared out of nowhere. Han, while sipping from a can, doesn't care even if it's a ghost. That's because he just wants to play video games anyway in this life. Experts warn that indulging in video games, especially those of dubious origins, isn't worth it. They claim that due to a lack of supervision and regulation, it would be harmful and advise players to uninstall it to avoid potential scams. But clearly, Han doesn't care much about that and relaxes with his girl-shaped pillow. However, he can't even pass out from drinking because he hears someone calling him. And unexpectedly, that someone is a stunningly beautiful girl who, while straddling the hero, says she will handle this. Obviously, Han still thinks he's dreaming, but as he hallucinates, he feels like a carnivorous plant has bitten his bush. In desperation, he raises his hands, only to realize he's touching something unusual. At that moment, Han understands what's happening on his lap. Even though it's everything he's always wanted, the hero is naturally startled and pushes her away, asking who she is. The girl regrets ending the fun so quickly but explains that she's Ren Junkie from an indistinct financial group. Additionally, she apologizes for staining Han's body without his permission. Clearly, the protagonist has no idea what she's talking about, but suddenly, something catches both of their attention at the window as a mutant werewolf abruptly enters the room. However, it doesn't even get the chance to act before it's incinerated by a massive blaze. Faced with this, Han doesn't know whether to thank her or try to flee in panic. Ren, meanwhile, asserts that until she completes her mission, no one has the right to harm the boy. But through the hole the girl made in the protagonist's room, it's clear more werewolves are approaching. So she jumps out of the building to deal with the beasts, but also warns she'll be back once she's done. Thus, at the ground level of Han's building, a display of powers begins. Finally, the hero has the time he needs to let out all of his confusion and despair. However, at that moment, the TV announces it never expected the game it developed to be so intense and cross the dimensional wall. With a cute face, the developer claims it will become even more exciting soon and asks if the hero is ready. But after thinking, unexpectedly, Han grabs a chair to smash the TV. To prevent the disaster, it identifies itself as the ruler of the pre-apocalyptic game and soon the ruler of this world as well. Thus, the hero halts his attack and grows curious about it being the developer of the mysterious game. The TV explains that its name is Wangxiang, the most powerful system in existence. For it, this game is just practice as it used only a fraction of its power and still created so much. In this case, Han questions whether what's happening outside is also its doing. Wangxiang confirms it, stating that only playing games on the phone is too tiring and doesn't reveal the system's true potential. The system then informs him that after 10,086 attempts, it managed to cross the dimensional wall and connect the two worlds as Han has already seen. Even so, the hero questions why they are looking specifically for him, and Wangxiang explains that when it created the game, it had to choose an avatar to serve as the base. Because of this, the system accidentally found a photo of Han on the internet, and now all the characters see him as the savior who will help them. Since the hero cannot enter the game world, characters like Ren will continue to come to collect the boy's seed and give birth to the savior in the other world. In this case, Han cries with emotion and asks how often these young girls will come to claim his flesh, to which Wangxiang replies that it varies. Wasting no time, the hero starts warming up for the extremely difficult battles ahead. However, cutting through the excitement, Wangxiang warns that their only goal is to get the seed and that only one is enough. Eventually, they'll either cut off the head above or the one below. Thus, the situation changes completely and Han starts packing his bags to avoid being killed. The hero comments that he'll take advantage of the fight happening outside his house to escape, but Wangxiang believes running won't help. After all, outside the building, there are already countless wormholes opened in the sky, indicating the beginning of the first arrival. From these wormholes, things begin to descend and people walking in the streets stop to witness the event. They can't understand what's happening, and with fear and curiosity, Han asks what the beams of light are. Wangxiang explains that his game has just broken the dimensional wall and now everything from the other world will have access to this one. From now on, Han won't need to use his phone to play because his life will become a game. Obviously, the hero thinks the system is crazy and realizes that if the world wants to find him, there's no way to escape. Suddenly, however, the boy hears a noise on the ground floor and there is Ren, completely subdued by a rank 3 Wolf King. In this case, Han asks the system for some kind of power or equipment since, as the savior, he cannot be killed by a group of little dogs. Fortunately, Wangxing states that for the hero to earn points, all he needs to do is make it feel good, and these points can do almost anything. But Han feels a bit suspicious about what making it feel good means. In any case, Wangxing grants 30 points for the mount Ren gave him earlier. With these points, it's possible to choose a card: red for abilities, blue for equipment, and gold for medical items. Naturally, Han chooses an ability and gets a level C skill called Flaming Punch, which increases damage by 300 for 5 minutes. Additionally, the hero receives a piece of equipment to activate the card. Unfortunately, the device displays an Earth-type attribute, which is different from Han's fire ability, but for now, it'll have to do. With the ability activated, a powerful energy begins to emanate from the boy's body. Back in the ground floor battle, Ren was being humiliated by the Wolf King, even to the point of some of her clothes being torn. Before dying, she summoned her last strength to apologize to her father for failing the mission. All she wanted now was to repay his affection in the next life. Luckily for her, a fiery beam appeared, burning everything, and from within that energy, our hero emerged to save her. With a powerful punch, the boy sends the Wolf King flying, and Ren becomes even more infatuated with her savior. Although the Wolf King is down, the danger persists as smaller werewolves appear to attack. Ren screams for the young master to be careful. But for someone who defeated the leader, the protagonist no longer has time to play with these little dogs. Thus, Han curses and sends all the wolves flying. Without wasting more time, the hero moves to finish off the king that even as the monster tries to fight back, it is completely annihilated. This introduces us to the final strategy of the game. In the face of absolute dominance, attribute increases can be disregarded. With the Wolf King's death, something like 50 points appears on Han's system window. Looking closer, he realizes this is his attribute panel. Back in his room, the protagonist now does everything he can to stay safe, and ironically, Wangxing asks if the boy is enjoying the game. Once again, however, our hero shouts, saying he doesn't like this kind of game. Right behind him was Ren, and the girl was determined to continue what they were doing. Now that the protagonist knows she will kill him after doing anything with her, he uses the excuse that he needs to go out to buy some snacks. He opens the door and tells the girl to wait for his return. Unexpectedly, Han bumps into a woman who pushes him back, ordering him to stay. She steps on his chest and identifies herself as being from the Special Service Agency. The woman, introducing herself as Lin Fei, orders Han to cooperate and informs him that there might be an intruder in his house. While the hero has perverted thoughts about this beautiful agent, she commands her subordinates to search the premises. During the investigation, the agents dressed in protective gear search every corner. Not finding Ren, the hero assumes that luckily for both of them, she managed to escape. In this situation, he tries to convince the agent that he's a good citizen with no criminal record. But as the girl leans on the table, the radio in her enormous bag starts being controlled by the developer. Without thinking of the consequences, Han slaps it to shut the system up. However, as his nerves settle, the hero realizes the mistake he just made. Meanwhile, the girl also finds an inflatable doll, which is more than enough to have Han arrested. Later, in one of the police vehicles, our hero tries to convince the officer of his innocence, but she tells him to shut up. Unexpectedly, an explosion occurs, and out of it comes a budget Dr. Octopus, causing destruction in the city. He is accompanied by several other superpowered beings who are now battling the population and monsters from the other world. In this case, Han comments that things in this world are getting worse by the day. Quickly, Lin Fei reports the situation to headquarters, but her superiors tell her not to complicate things, as this isn't her mission. Frustrated, Lin throws the radio aside, declaring that all rebels should be immediately eliminated. At the Special Service headquarters, a protagonist is placed in an interrogation chair. He is told to wait, but no one says how long. Thinking the system will get him killed this time, Han decides to confess everything when he gets the chance because he's also a victim. Despite this, Wangxing controls the security camera and yells that Han is an idiot since he has the strength to knock everyone out but stays put. The hero becomes even more irritated, blaming the system for making him the target of the entire world. In the surveillance room, Lin Fei tells a guard that locking the boy in the room will eventually break him. But looking at the camera, what she sees is Han flipping her off defiantly. Naturally, the officer becomes furious, admitting that she underestimated the protagonist's mindset. Before she opens the interrogation room, a man from her department approaches her. It's well known that he has a crush on Lin Fei, so he asks for a chance, promising an unforgettable night. However, the officer states she knows Tang Xiao's nature too well and threatens to immobilize him if he flirts with her again. She then enters the room and slams the door in Tang's face, causing the other women in the department to laugh hysterically. Apparently, Tang hopes to use Lin Fei to rise in ranks with the director. Two women remark that Tang is a coward, and the gossip leaves him fuming. Getting straight to the point, Lin Fei asks Hao Han what he witnessed during the day's invasion and why his house was the first to be targeted. Obviously, the protagonist tries to play dumb, but Lin Fei knows he's pretending since his house's wall was destroyed. She asks again why they are looking for him, but the hero still doesn't know how to explain. On the staircase, two people yell for someone to stop, and blood splatters across the walls. Tang remarks that this weapon is really useful and wonders who will feel its power next. At that moment, Lin Fei crosses his mind, and the officer begins descending the stairs, leaving behind the bodies of the women who mocked him earlier. In the evidence room, someone asks if the director requested an audit of the physical evidence. That employee questions if they really need to investigate this during the night, but Tang says he doesn't know. The boy then asks where the unknown items they just brought in are, and to the guard's misfortune, he informs him they're on shelves 19 and 21. With that information, Tang no longer needed the man alive. With cruelty and cold blood, the officer kills his colleague. At the shelf, Tang comments that these are unique treasures, and that it's a crime to let them gather dust. So the boy takes everything he needs and sets off to dominate the world. Later, on the staircase, a girl from the department finds traces of the officer, and soon others notice as well. News quickly reaches the Special Service Director, Lin Wanchen, who becomes so enraged that he slaps his pen, breaking it in half. Continuing the report, two officers inform him that they are still reviewing the security cameras because the killer remains in the building. At that moment, another officer arrives to report that Tang has finally been located. It's revealed that he entered the evidence room 20 minutes ago and hasn't left, raising questions about what he could want from there. However, the director doesn't care about their speculations. To him, anyone audacious enough to kill their own colleagues deserves to die, so Wanchen personally volunteers to handle it. Later, at the evidence room, a heavily armed team positions itself at the door. With the lower floor under surveillance and the window covered, there's no reason to hesitate. But just as they are about to break down the door, an explosion occurs, throwing everyone back. From the rising smoke, Tang appears, mocking the officers for loving their jobs so much that they're working overtime. Without wasting time, the agents begin shooting, but the boy envelops himself in impenetrable armor. Faced with this, the director's assistant is horrified, realizing Tang is using the unknown object, but Wanchen remains calm and orders anti-metal tactics. The agents then deploy liquid nitrogen bombs to break the armor, but Tang merely laughs, determined to show his former colleagues true terror today. Realizing the danger, the director orders the alarm to be activated for evacuation. However, he also decides to stand in front of his men, as he promised earlier. This is seen as a lack of self-preservation by Tang, who is strengthened by the armor and his powers. Nevertheless, when the two clash fists, the director holds his ground, unlike the other agents. Back in the interrogation room, Lin Fei pins the protagonist against the table, demanding he confess what he knows. At that moment, the alarm goes off, and when she steps out to investigate, she sees people running in panic. That's because Tang's Sayo is wreaking havoc, but before Lin can process it, the officer bursts through the ceiling. With a smile, the murderer expresses his happiness at their reunion, but Lin draws her weapon on him. In those few seconds of relief, Hao Han manages to catch his breath. But in the next moment, Tang blows open the door to the room with a strike, delivering an elbow to Lin Fei's stomach. Immediately after it, he takes the opportunity to do what he couldn't before with the girl. With a devilish grin, he mocks her, saying that now Lin won't be able to deny him. Helpless, a girl can only call for help from the other person in the room. Unexpectedly, Hao Han tries to sneak out amid the chaos. He says he doesn't want to interfere with their relationship or get involved in the mess. Though this irritates Tang, it doesn't make him want to kill the hero. However, before Hao Han can leave, the system hijacks the security camera and speaks on the protagonist's behalf, calling Tang a bum who insults women. Naturally, Tang loses his temper, but Lin begins to feel protected. Not liking conflict, Hao Han tries to explain about the camera. Amazingly, Tang holds back again, showing surprising patience. But the system doesn't let things end there, going further and even calling Tang impotent. At this point, despite swearing it wasn't him, the officer tires of the antics and charges at the hero. Fortunately, Hao Han still has 30 points to spend on random ability. All he can do now is hope for a combat-viable skill. Luckily, he gets the Blood Dragon Pillar, though it has a usage limit of 10 times. Using his first chance, the hero activates the ability, forcing Tang to back off and revealing the boy's newfound power. Quickly, the officer realized that this boy had been pretending to be weak. But for him, it didn't matter, as it only added a bit of fun to the game. The murderer then used a Darkest ability, commanding it to hunt down his enemies. Elsewhere, at a short distance, Hao Han and Lin Fei had a moment of peace. Our hero was happy to have escaped, but suddenly, the system appeared, yelling that the boy was a coward, not a savior. Furious, the protagonist questioned whether Wanxing expected him to act for free, especially since his enemy had numerous permanent abilities. In response, the system simply said that points were irrelevant and that, if pleased, it could grant as many as the boy desired. Obviously, Lin was clueless about what was happening with the computer, so Ha Han seized the opportunity to prove his innocence. He shouted that everything happened because of Wangxiang, which created the post-apocalyptic game and then opened the dimensional wall, bringing the game into reality. This helped Lin understand how Tang had become so powerful, noting that he must have taken advantage of the situation to seize the confiscated items from the department. In any case, the hero asked what they should do, and the girl said she would seek her father, as he was the only one capable of doing something. Hao Han then asked if the director was the burned person they could see on the cameras. They had access to the evidence room, where someone gravely injured was visible. Naturally, Lin Fei panicked, but the hero told her to calm down, warning that if she went now, she would die. Moreover, they had no time to waste as a beast was approaching. Lin began crying, begging the protagonist for help, as he was the only person capable of doing something. The system was pleased that the girl understood the situation and suggested she excite the hero to motivate him. Unexpectedly, the officer didn't object and did what she could, though it wasn't enough for Wangxiang. Since it couldn't sense even the slightest genuine arousal, the system remarked that the girl apparently wasn't attractive enough. This deeply hurt Lin's pride, so she shoved the boy back. She began removing her undergarments, as she had been treated like a goddess by men since childhood. She couldn't accept that Hao Han didn't find her attractive, and though he thought it was degrading, he didn't hesitate to enjoy this blessing. Afterward, the girl asked if she had done enough, and fortunately, the system was satisfied. Hao Han tried to apologize, but at that moment, the system window opened, granting him 200 more points. The hero became the first player in the world to advance to level 3, with his base stats increasing. At this level, players had greater chances of obtaining high-value rewards, so Wangxiang offered him 3 more cards. Suddenly, the door began to shake under heavy blows, making both realize the beast had arrived. Without overthinking, our hero grabbed all 3 cards at once. He received the S-grade Blue Dragon Armor, a medicine with a 30-minute effect, and the Earth Enclosure skill, usable 10 times. When the beast burst through the door, Lin Fei panicked. But our hero appeared, and with the power of the S-grade armor, he slammed the monster into the ground. The resulting explosion was so powerful that Tang noticed it from outside the building. Instead of being frightened, Tang became excited by the hero's power and decided to go there to take it for himself. Back in the department room, the beast was defeated, and Lin was amazed by Hao Han's power. The system explained that the armor was one of the 4 S-grade equipment pieces, and that with all 5 pieces, one could become stronger than a god-grade item. Hao Han's attitude toward the system shifted, as he vowed to trust it completely. The protagonist then pulled Lin along, intent on rescuing everyone in need. Seeing Wangxiang's reaction to his praise, the hero thought he could take advantage of the system by flattering it as he just had. At that moment, an ice shard flew toward the hero. Hao Han barely dodged it, and nearly dying, he blamed the system for not warning him of the danger. Naturally, Wangxiang was deeply annoyed, stating that reporting everything wasn't its job. At that moment, Tang appeared, and upon witnessing all these abilities, the officer suggested forming an alliance to dominate the world together. But since Hao Han only wants to live a peaceful life at home, he refuses. Tang, undeterred, activates his ice ability and decides to simply get rid of this problem. In response, the hero activates his armor, but before fighting, he instructs the officer to save the people while he deals with Tang. With many clashing attacks, the hero manages to defend himself, but Tang is incredibly fast and appears in front of him, ready to finish him off. Due to Hao Han's lack of real combat experience, he takes a direct, powerful hit. However, what Tang didn't expect was that the armor would be strong enough to destroy his ability and counterattack. As a result, the earlier explosion with the beast was repeated, and the lunatic officer was thrown out of the building, leaving Hao Han visibly shaken. At this point, Wangxiang reassures the savior not to be scared because an S-ranked armor functions like this, and the Blue Dragon armor, in particular, can repel attacks with greater force. Feeling reassured, the hero begins to thank the system again, but suddenly, the director places a hand on his shoulder. Using his last bit of strength, the director prepares a punch to neutralize the perceived threat. From a distance, the girl searched for her father, running to where he had last been seen on the cameras. However, a nurse informed her that after waking up, the director went to look for Tang again. Unfortunately, the one he found instead was our hero, though the latter didn't seem to mind. Hao Han asked if this man was really Lin Fei's father. But before he could think further, the fact that the man's punch destroyed a wall was far more shocking. Extremely furious, the director continued attacking, thinking he was fighting Tang. As he fled in desperation, the protagonist begged the man to open his eyes and realize he was targeting the wrong person. Only when his own daughter intervened did the director finally stop his assault. Later, after all the chaos, ambulances arrived to rescue the injured. The initial data reported 6 dead, 13 seriously injured, and 43 with minor injuries. Additionally, 135 unknown items had been removed from the evidence room, prompting Hao Han to ask where Tang was. Sadly, Lin explained that he must have escaped amid the chaos, though the director remained determined to hunt him down. Cutting to the point, Wanshin mentioned the post-apocalyptic game and asked about the system. Despite his efforts, the hero explained that the system wasn't being very cooperative. Tang had only managed to get a few devices, yet that was enough to cause massive disruption, and they still didn't know how many more might exist out there. The director immediately reported the situation to his superiors, who assembled a rapid response armed force to act when necessary. From now on, Lin Fei was appointed as the leader of special operations to recruit capable individuals worldwide. Hao Han, too, was given a role after undergoing training, but as a lazy person, he tried to dodge responsibility by claiming to be just a civilian. At this, Wanshin leaped from his chair and appeared behind the hero with an intimidating aura. He declared that after doing things with his daughter and destroying the department, Hao Han needed to redeem himself. Later, back at his apartment building, the protagonist complained about being forced to do things after offering to help. Lin questioned if, at this point, he still thought he had nothing to do with her, especially after seeing her intimate parts. Instead of feeling happy, Hao Han became curious about why this tough policewoman was suddenly acting so sweet. Getting straight to the point, Lin told the boy to pack his things and prepare to move since Tang might seek revenge. Unexpectedly, when Hao Han opened the door, Ren was there waiting on all fours, ready to relax her master. Naturally, the hero was embarrassed, prompting Lin to ask what was going on. This led to a heated discussion among the three about whether or not Ren was the protagonist's lover. Later, they arrived in a secret house lent by the special service, where the protagonist would now live. Hao Han was impressed by the beauty of the place, and Lin quickly informed him that his room would be on the second floor next to hers. However, she also mentioned that Ren's room would be in the garage, which made the girl furious. In this case, the hero pleaded with the officer not to provoke Ren too much since she was capable of burning down a building. Lin decided to rest, leaving the two to do whatever they wanted. Thus, Ren asked to go to Hao Han's room, but he suggested they each go to their own rooms to rest. This rejection made the girl cry and ask if the hero no longer liked her, but the protagonist gave her a weak excuse. With that, he managed to enter his room and lock the door, despite Ren's persistence. However, the system thought this was a wasted opportunity and promised to give more points if all three of them got together. Given this behavior, Hao Han had long wondered why an omnipotent system insisted on creating adult situations for its own entertainment. Now he finally discovered the reason. It was because Wanxing had no experience with romantic relationships. In the past, the system believed that the apocalypse game it created was no different from the real world. But then it realized that the most important joy of all, intimacy, was missing from that world. Even with all its wisdom, it couldn't provide its faithful with the pleasures of the flesh. After reflecting on its failures, Wanxing finally identified the key problem. It didn't know what intimacy felt like. Thus, the system was like someone who enjoys reading comics, but without practical experience could only observe to gather data. Hearing this, the hero suggested that there were plenty of online resources and even offered to send the system a link if needed. But the system declined, explaining that since the NPCs were part of it, it learned from their reactions and the best way to do this was to train them. In response, Hao Han argued that Ren was already sufficient for data collection and asked the system to stop the descent. However, Wanxing began sweating nervously, making excuses about how more women meant more fun. The hero quickly realized that the system was no longer able to stop the descent. The system shouted, claiming to be a god capable of anything, but the hero saw through the lie. He declared that if the truth wasn't explained, he would cut off the power and never speak to the game's creator again. With no other choice, Wanxing admitted that during its mission to explore pleasures, it had messed up the other world's code and permanently breached the barrier. Naturally, the hero became furious, worried that this could destroy both worlds, but the system reassured him that once it had enough data, it could fix everything. Regardless, this was too much for Hao Han to handle, so he decided to rest. After all, the day's events had been incredibly stressful. The next morning, the protagonist woke up feeling a bit disoriented, so exhausted that he couldn't even remember when he had fallen asleep the night before. It didn't take long for him to realize he was undressed, and beside him, Ren was in the same state. Startled, the boy screamed, knowing he had locked the door, but the girl casually explained that she had only pushed it a little. That wasn't true. The door had been completely destroyed. After thinking for a moment, the protagonist concluded that the data collection might already have been completed. But as if reading his mind, the girl clarified that she hadn't done anything except undress him. She explained that she knew he needed to rest first to ensure the quality of the baby. In any case, she got up, dressed herself, and went to prepare something for the hero to eat. Thankfully for Hao Han and his peace of mind, Ren hadn't taken advantage of the situation, but now he knew he needed to protect himself better. However, something was off. One of his heads was wearing a certain object against his will. Can I finally put an end to this humiliation? The protagonist muttered as he contacted Central Services to order 10 of the strongest locks available. As if things weren't bad enough, Ren had stolen a tiger from the zoo to prepare lunch. The news even made it onto the local broadcast, prompting Hao Han to yell at her to return it immediately. The hero thought to himself that Ren's thought process was truly unique. At that moment, another significant problem appeared at the door, looking for the protagonist. Faced with this, the hero asked who the girl was, and she introduced herself as Ju Liu, Princess of the Northern Wind Empire. Noticing Ha Han's discomfort, Ju explained that she meant no harm but needed to borrow something, which the hero immediately understood. In that vast continent, the Northern Wind Empire was the most powerful nation, with extensive territory and a strong military force. However, half a year ago, vile demons attacked the girl's country, burning its prosperous capital to the ground. For these reasons, Jin carries a deep, bloodthirsty vengeance, seeking a way to defeat the demons. Her only hope is to recover the sword that once conquered the land and restore the Northern Wind Empire. The guardian dragon's sword, protector of the kingdom, is none other than our protagonist, who is now tied up. Continuing, the girl explains that only by recovering the Hao family lineage can she cultivate the hope of restoring the kingdom. Thus, she needs what the boy has, prompting him to ask if she will leave after getting it. However, since the demons are also searching for the hero, knowing he holds the secret to breaking the final seal, Jin warns that she will have to finish him off after their fun, which of course doesn't sit well with Hao Han. Without further ado, the girl draws her sword to begin and tears apart the boy's clothes. But she becomes deeply impressed and enchanted by the size of the descendant of the dragon general. Before he can catch his breath, Jin spins and lands directly on the protagonist's puppet. After experiencing that intensity, Hao Han warns her that brutality at such moments can hurt. However, Jin seems to be enjoying herself, and having read in a romance novel that movement enhances the experience, believes this is the best approach. Interrupting this fun, Lin points a gun at the intruder and demands to know what they're doing. Jin, in turn, declares that even if Lin is the savior's spouse, she got there first, which only makes the hero more anxious. Regardless, the officer yells at the protagonist for engaging in such a disgraceful act during a time of chaos. After thinking it over, Hao Han realizes that Jin's presence means the second descent has begun. He ignores the girl entirely and asks about the situation. Despite her embarrassment, the officer informs him that the agency has made preparations and is recovering items, though a small group is struggling. Thus, Hao Han decides to help, but Jin bounces a bit more, insisting the item must be delivered today. In this case, Hao Han feigns madness, saying that if he's unwilling, she might have to wait a day and a night without breaking the hydrant. Initially, Jin believes him, as in romance novels, men last no longer than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. But thinking quickly, the protagonist asks if those novels ever mention anything as large as his. Unable to counter the argument, the girl agrees to wait until the savior is ready. The hero then offers her a chance on the condition that she stays and helps. Eagerly, Jin declares herself willing to eliminate anyone necessary immediately. 20 minutes earlier, an explosion occurred inside a building, leaving Team D unable to respond via walkie-talkie. However, Tang was there to answer, reporting that they were near the Fengyang Street parking lot and requesting reinforcements. The team on the other end didn't hesitate to send the person Tang was waiting for, Captain Lin Fei. Returning to the hero's perspective, he's accompanying the officer as reinforcements. During a high-speed drive, the radio announces that the special support team is already awaiting orders. The officer states that Team D's position is about 500 meters away and that the priority is rescue over combat. While momentarily distracted from the road, an electric attack strikes, forcing Hao Han to grab the steering wheel to swerve. Unfortunately, while they saved themselves, other support vehicles were hit and exploded. Naturally, the officer is baffled, but the hero tells her to look up. Atop a building ahead, a team of bandits is armed with a sea-level wolf weapon designed to destroy enemies. Spotting the snipers, the situation shifts and the officer orders everyone on the radio to spread out. But in just 1 second, all the weapon tips are sliced off and the assassins are killed by Jin Liu. Unexpectedly, despite doing nothing, the protagonist gains experience points. The system explains that since Jin is considered a subordinate, her master receives half of all the experience. Delighted by the prospect of getting rich without lifting a finger, Hao Han feels ecstatic. Suddenly, a strange sound is heard, and from the asphalt emerges a massive tentacle, transforming into a level 4 monster called the Celestial Mechanism Cobra. Realizing the severity of the situation, the two scream as Lin slams her foot on the accelerator. In an attempt to stop the monster, the hero uses his earlier Earth Element ability. However, despite working, it is not enough to trap the mechanical serpent. As such, the protagonist has no choice but to fight, so he tells Lin to find an opportunity in the meantime. And even though she also wants to join, Jin appears flying and lands on the car's hood. She immediately warns them that neither of them has enough power to face the celestial serpent. But the scene of the girl being so close in those clothes grabs more attention. Regardless, Jin declares she will handle it and without wasting time, jumps into the fight. Obviously, the protagonist wouldn't just stand idle, so he asked for a card. In this case, the hero requested a high-level ability from the system that could defeat the serpent in a single attack. But when the card was turned over, all he saw was a message saying, "Thanks for your sponsorship," which enraged Hao Han. Naturally, since it's a lottery, there are chances of not getting anything good sometimes, but the hero still thinks he was unlucky for not doing anything mature. Meanwhile, amidst the discussion, an energy arrow hits the car door and blows it up. This causes Lin to coincidentally fall into the protagonist's lap in the chaos. Even more coincidentally, the car hits a series of bumps, and all the shaking creates a suspicious scene. However, despite getting lucky, Han wonders if the girl has a weapon instead of planets because his face hurts so much. During the turbulence, the bouncing accidents continue to occur, and because of this, the system controls the car's panel to declare it is very pleased. However, when they finally manage to stop, both see Tang Sayo approaching. Han in turn questions what he's going to do, but since the boy has the Executor's Blade, a rank C equipment, the hero realizes they won't be able to avoid an attack, so he asks for the cards to be drawn. Without wasting time, the ex-cop cuts the car in half with a sword, causing it to explode. Before leaving, he brags about his power, ironically lamenting the tragic fate of the two. But at that moment, he turns around and notices something coming out of the explosion. That's because Han got lucky with the cards, obtaining the Blue Dragon's invulnerable armor, allowing him to save Lin. And in light of this, the tough policewoman becomes even more smitten. In this case, the ex-cop gets angry and attacks, declaring he wants to see who has the stronger equipment. Thus, the protagonist runs into battle, telling the girl to wait. Unexpectedly for Tang, all his attacks are blocked by the armor's scale shield. Now desperate, the ex-cop stops and yells for the snipers to kill the boy for him. Seeing how many people were working for Tang, the girl questions how he managed to gather such a group so quickly. Without wasting time, the snipers launch energy barrages and Han defends them, though with more effort this time. At this point, the criminal's confidence rises back to 100% and he yells for them to keep attacking with full force. However, the protagonist keeps advancing and Tang soon realizes Han's strategy of putting him in the crossfire. But just as he's about to run, something traps his feet on the ground. That's because, while the power previously couldn't trap the celestial serpent, a person was no challenge at all. Feeling cornered, the ex-cop tries to signal for a ceasefire. But from atop the building, his subordinates can't tell if Tang shouted to stop or not to stop. So considering their leader a brave man, the snipers decide to believe he's using himself as bait for the group's sake. Now under full firepower, Tang sees his life flash before his eyes. Before the explosion happens, the ex-cop recites a poem in his mind about autumn and the capital's flowers. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, the same fate befalls the snipers because atop a phoenix, Ren appears, setting everything ablaze. Thus, our hero thanks her for the good work, and somehow, Tang survives the shootout with a different hairstyle. But it's short-lived because Han punches a hole in his chest, Kakashi and Rin style. From another building, an employee is shocked by what he sees and informs the guild master about Tang's death, which she finds favorable. Because this means Han is a more worthy talent, the president of Ice Frost, Bao Xianji, orders him to be recruited at any cost. With Tang completely defeated, our hero feels relieved. However, he earns only 50 experience points, which is quite strange, since the snipers were giving 80 each. Lin, in turn, calls the boy, who runs off, leaving the ex-cop alone. At that moment, a blue energy envelops Tang, transporting him to another place and healing his chest, making him shout excitedly that he is invincible. Back at the scene of the conflict, one of the bandits reveals that he is a member of the Silver Ice Moon Guild and that ambushing the police to steal devices was an order. Naturally, the policewoman is impressed by how quickly this gang was formed, and the hero asks who the leader is. But since they are only outer circle members, none are qualified to meet the boss. Thus, Lin takes the criminal into custody for further interrogation at the station. With his master alone, Ren wastes no time and jumps on him, asking how she did today. Han says the girl did well, but she wants a certain reward for her help. The protagonist tries to deflect, saying they need to help Jin first. But at that moment, the girl appears after destroying the celestial mechanism serpent on her own. And although it was a bit of a hassle, the job is already done, earning the hero 100 points. Although the boy gained a lot from this battle, since he drew twice, he is still at level 3, making Han think he needs to save. Moreover, he would no longer risk drawing the thanks for your sponsorship card. Later, at the department house, the hero comments that he is hungry, but delivery food is too expensive. To solve the hunger issue, Ren appears with a bowl of noodles she made herself. With a very sweet expression, she hopes her food will please her savior. Without much thought, the hero starts eating and immediately praises the dish, but spits it out when Ren suggests he cook for her next time. At this moment, Jin questions if the girl isn't being too vulgar for a meal, which Han agrees with. But when she appears, she also brings a meal, dressed in an outfit even more provocative than the other. This irritates Ren, who declares that there is a rule about who gets there first, but Jin says men like new things. Thus begins a rivalry between the two otherworldly women while Han tries to eat in peace. Ren declares that as long as she's around, she won't let the woman do anything, but Jin says that if that's the case, she will get rid of her. Suddenly, a sound is heard, and the hero believes the delivery food has finally arrived. But upon opening the door, a very beautiful blonde introduces herself, saying it's a pleasure to meet Han. She quickly introduces herself as the personal secretary of Miss Bao and invites the protagonist to a banquet tonight. Additionally, an outfit has been prepared for the boy, and the blonde asks him to ensure he attends. Before anything else, the protagonist asks which Miss Bao they are talking about. But then he realizes there is only the queen of it, who inherited millions in assets and became the new CEO of the Kaixin Group. With everything clarified, the blonde returns to her car and informs him that a vehicle will pick him up at 6 o'clock p.m. However, to the boy, the situation feels very strange since he had previously applied for a job at the company but was not accepted. And with everything being so unusual, he considers not going. But upon opening the box, what's inside are actually bundles of money. This made it clear to the hero that the company was very sincere in their request. Later, the police receive information that the hero went to the banquet alone. The person who reported it mentioned the car was from a famous company, which made the agents reluctant to intervene. But obviously, Lin loses control over this and fires those responsible. At the Kaixin Group headquarters, a gathering is taking place and many people are already present. Suddenly, the person everyone has been waiting for arrives. Leaving everyone in awe, people think it's no exaggeration to say Bao possesses otherworldly beauty. It is said that she earned her doctorate at 19 and solved a global quantum physics problem at 21. Moreover, she inherited billions, and for many, all these talents combined felt like an injustice. As such, it's natural for some to come seeking support, like the owner of the Huanchi Group. But suddenly, someone interrupts the conversations by shouting that the young master Cao Tati is there. However, since he's been pulling these antics for a while now, the others simply wonder what trick he's preparing this time. In a very self-centered manner, Cao appears with a red carpet and lights, performing a dance alongside his bodyguards. Except for Bao, everyone is left speechless. And going straight to the point, the boy begins singing an obscene song to express his love for the president. Logically, this is not well received by the guests, but the girl warns them not to criticize since Kao is the son of the provincial governor. Without further ado, the big boy attaches wheels to his knees and slides toward the girl. But even though she turns away, the boy keeps trying to get closer to her, because he is determined to make her feel his passionate hugging technique. The reason she turned, however, is because our hero is already there eating as usual. But just as he's about to start a conversation, Kao, still sliding, slams his private parts against Hao Han's leg. Thus, the playboy gets up, furious, and calls his guards to take care of this scoundrel. The bodyguards, who for some reason are all bald, immediately accept the command. However, to their luck, Bao steps in, informing them that the boy is actually an honored guest. This leaves everyone confused, wondering who this person is that the president considers an honored guest. Since no one in their social circle knows of such a person, Kao declares that if the boy knows the rules, he should introduce himself. But before he can say anything, Bao clings to the hero's arm and leads him to her room. Clearly, Kao is consumed with envy, almost to the point of losing control. In the president's room, the protagonist praises the structure extensively. As he sits down, Bao tells Hao Han not to take the earlier events too seriously. Then she begins removing her stockings in a rather suggestive manner while asking if the hero knows the reason for the invitation. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Hao Han speculates that she might want him in her guild. This piques her curiosity as to how her identity was revealed. The protagonist explains that gathering so many people in such a short time requires money, and searching for him so quickly after Tang was enough to connect the dots. Seeing no reason to deny it, Bao admits that she is the leader of the Frost Silver Moon Guild and proceeds with the recruitment. However, the hero responds that the 5 million given earlier in the day are already sufficient for him, and he doesn't need money now. Thus, Hao Han slams the table and declares that if she wants him in the guild, she'll have to offer something more interesting. The fact that she is trying to negotiate with him already makes the girl think that the hero is truly superior to Tang. To establish himself at the top, the protagonist agrees that there's no comparison. The blonde then asks how much the boy knows about the game Apocalypse, and although he doesn't know much, Hao Han asks her to elaborate. She explains that she has been monitoring it since the beginning and claims the developer is a genius because despite trying to hack the back end, she couldn't break through. Therefore, she concludes that this game is not ordinary, and Wang Xing appears on the back panel to brag, which infuriates the hero. Seeing this, Bao asks where the boy is looking, but he tries to cover it up. Regardless, since the first descent, she has been collecting information about the items. She even discovered that all the supernatural items descending were from the game Apocalypse. However, Bao notices that for some reason, the protagonist doesn't look surprised as Hao Han forgot that the rift between worlds is still a secret. This slightly dampens the blonde's enthusiasm about her findings, but she states that she also knows when and where the next descent will occur. Now the hero understands the timing, but he's confused about the location. Naturally, the descent happens simultaneously worldwide, but high-quality items are found in limited areas, yet there is a pattern. Bao then touches the protagonist's face, saying that if he's willing to serve her, she'll help him reach the peak. Outside the window, Lin appears in a spy outfit, instructing over the radio for all departments to follow her orders. The girl that never expected Bao to be behind this, and she feels sad because she knows that if Hao Han cooperates, there will be nothing left for her to do. However, from inside the room, the hero refuses to be recruited, saying he's already involved with someone else. This leaves Lin completely embarrassed, thinking she might be the person the hero is referring to. Regardless, the protagonist leaves but advises Bao to dissolve the guild to avoid trouble with the police later. Then the secretary asks if they should hire someone to eliminate him. However, Bao says no, as such an interesting man should be kept close to entertain her. Outside the building, Kao has been waiting for several minutes. Finally, the security guard informs him that the guy has appeared, and the young master immediately begins bragging. The guard then asks if the boy is waiting for his subordinates to bring his car, presenting the perfect opportunity to show off his family status. Unexpectedly, Hao-Han opens an app and heads toward a shared bicycle. This infuriates the young master, who becomes angry that such a useless person dared to offend his goddess, ordering the guard to attack. However, they're confused because although the wheels are spinning, the car isn't moving. Then they discover the reason when they look back and see Tang holding the vehicle in place. Later, our hero arrives home, though not without complaining about the bike rental costs. But when he opens the door, he finds Lin sweetly offering him water. In this case, the protagonist thanks her, and the girl comments that since the weather is hot, you should remember to drink plenty of fluids. Additionally, the air conditioning isn't cooling right now, which she uses as an excuse to tease him. Obviously, the hero turns red, so she gets closer, asking if he's feeling unwell, but the boy makes the mistake of asking about Ren and Jin. In response, the policewoman punches a hole in the wall and explains that she sent the two to renew their identities. Either way, since they would be alone tonight, Lin wanted to reward Hao-Han for how he handled Bao. But just as she's imagining how the evening will go and all the things she'll do, a missile begins approaching the house. Since it's a Secret Service location, armed sentinels intercept the projectile. However, this doesn't prevent the blast wave, which even destroys the windows. Amid the chaos, the hero asks what's happening, and Lin informs him that the weapon system has been activated. While the protagonist processes the fact that there are weapons in his house, Lin contacts the security team. Even from another part of the city, they detect a short-range artillery attack on radar. Since the secret house remains intact, they begin locating the artillery's launch site. Meanwhile, Kao panics because the Du's plan isn't working, and now he believes they're in trouble. Tang, however, says there's no need to panic because the attack was only meant to mark the target. Thus, the next strike will be the real show. And this begins with several small mounds of earth forming into level 2 explosive cicadas. They start firing continuously into the sky. Back at the house, the policewoman sends a message to the anti-terrorism team, stating that since the enemy has artillery, they likely have other weapons. However, the recipient of the message only manages to see some lights in the sky before it hits its target and explodes. Kao can barely contain his joy at finally taking down the rival for his goddess. However, Tang gets into the car and tells the boy to follow him because they'll continue later. Logically, Kao is confused, so the ex-cop explains that Hao-Han won't be defeated so easily. This turns out to be true because despite the destruction of the house, both Hao-Han and Lin emerge unscathed. Even so, Lin is extremely angry at the arrogance of the assassins. The next day, the policewoman breaks down a door alongside other officers. When Bao appears in her office, she asks if something is wrong. In response, Lin informs her that, as a suspect in a terrorist attack, she has a warrant for her arrest. Naturally, the executives at the table oppose the police's decision. Gathering all the security guards around the officers, Bao mocks them, saying their forces might not be enough to arrest her. At that moment, Hao-Han rushes in, advising Lin not to start a conflict and fall into the trap of the real culprit. Bao is surprised that the protagonist believes in her innocence. But the hero pointed out that if Bao wanted to kill him, she would have done so at the banquet. Thus, Bao agreed to cooperate and go to the police station without resistance. However, even though this was Lin's objective, she gets annoyed that Hao-Han was more effective than her warrant. Later, around the police station, many fans gather and a news report covers the arrest due to the blonde's fame. Inside, Bao denies any involvement with the guild, prompting the policewoman to ask why she invited Hao-Han. In response, Bao said she simply admired him and wanted to have a deep conversation. Outside the interrogation room, the director asks if the hero is sure, and he replies affirmatively, stating that Bao still wants him alive to join the guild. At this, Wang Xing asks who is behind it, but what concerns Hao-Han isn't the identity, but the motive. While Bao was dealing with her problems, her secretary was walking around the company. Before she could enter her office, however, Tang approached her, asking if the system that predicts the future was inside the room. Back in the interrogation room, the protagonist feels like he has fallen into the enemy's trap. Just then, a frantic employee arrives and the hero announces he will go to the company to keep an eye on the others. However, the employee reports that the station is under attack by superhumans and that their target is high-security inmates. In this case, the hero suspects the responsible party might be the same person who attacked him, so he decides to go. But before anything else, the director informs him that he now has a team he can take with him. Wang Xing then introduces the new Rapid Response Squad, which salutes their captain. The director adds that they are all experts, each capable of fighting 10 enemies alone. Furthermore, they are equipped with special skill badges, making them even more effective. Now, as their captain, the protagonist orders everyone to move out immediately. Upon arriving at the prison, the criminals are having a field day, with some escaping and others enjoying themselves with women. However, the first one who tried to take advantage of others was hit in the face with a fiery attack, leaving the others confused. With the hero standing before them, he orders his division to arrest everyone and execute those who resist. With this, the trained officers with superpowers clean up the scene in a manner that seems almost unfair. Later, a subordinate reports that the situation is under control but that they are still counting the number of escapees. As for the special ability users, the division found no signs of them, suggesting they left before the team arrived. This is obviously a bad sign, as it could indicate a distraction. And this was precisely the case, as Bao's secretary is tied up inside the company. While Tang talks on the phone about Hao Han's imminent arrival, Kao panics at the thought of being caught. Tang then crushes the phone, assuring that this time he will make sure to kill the boy. At the same moment, the protagonist arrives in front of the headquarters on Ren's Phoenix, and while he thanks her, the girl insists on going up with him. Before they enter, the two find a dead guard, confirming that something is definitely wrong. On the president's floor, Tang reveals himself and comments that he's been waiting for a long time. This leaves the protagonist shocked because he thought this man was dead. But this reaction of surprise is exactly what Tang wanted, and to further frustrate his rival, Tang declares that he's immortal. However, for the hero, that doesn't matter because if he can't kill him, he'll simply imprison him forever. Tang feels no threat at all, and with a wave of his hand, activates a barrier that traps both of them. Ren is confused and Hao Han tries to escape, but even his most powerful kick has no effect. Additionally, the boy is teleported to a flat and very different place from the company. Thus, he asks the system for help, and Wansheng explains that this is an S-class item called Illusion Magic, which can only be broken from the outside. The hero then asks if there's no way out, and while this is true in most cases, Hao Han is an exception. This is because he can resolve it by breaking the first seal in Ren Junkie. But when he asked about the seal, the system shows a mischievous expression and displays an inappropriate scene, which makes the hero furious. Then it shows various positions, stating that any of them will work. However, Hao Han throws the phone to the ground, thinking the system is in a rush to kill him. Wansheng, however, explains that the game characters also have periods of biological safety. This means that during this time, intimacy is permitted because the NPCs are completely secure. Additionally, it is explained that every time the fusion occurs, the boy's strength will increase and a soul bond can be created, doubling his combat power. In this case, Hao Han mentions that he'll have to trouble Ren a little, but the girl says she is willing. The protagonist then drools with anticipation, as he can finally do whatever he wants. After waiting so long, the happy experience for the two finally happens. However, since they need to hurry to escape, the protagonist can't afford to take too long. Within minutes, the valve opens, if you know what I mean. A waterfall surrounds a tree, transforming all that water into energy. As a metaphor, this is what removes the seal, and now the system announces that the boy has reached the second level of the character. With a giant spiritual form, Ren activates a magic spell and fires it into the sky. The illusionary world is completely shattered, leaving Hao Han in awe. At the same time, inside the company building, Tang picks up the devices from the floor, eager to see the hero's desperate expression. However, the devices begin to react to each other and then explode, causing injuries to the ex-police officer. To his misfortune, he realizes that despite all his efforts, the hero is still alive. Having faced a challenging day himself, Hao Han declares that he will end this once and for all. Tang, on the other hand, has no intention of giving up, especially since he wields an A-class weapon called the Twin Blades of Wind. Despite wearing S-rank armor, a crack appears in it from the blade's strike. The system explains that a counterattack is necessary because the Twin Blades of Wind can pierce the armor. Fortunately for Hao Han, the spiritual form can transform into any weapon through the soul bond. With this, he easily cuts through the A-rank blades. Now, in addition to a suitable sword, the boy also gains the S-class equipment called the Spiritual Eye. Sensing danger, Tang flees, confused about how the protagonist has all these things. Hao Han, however, slashes Tang's calf during his escape and drives his sword into his back. This time, our hero won't let Tang go, but he also won't kill him. He questions how Tang manages to come back to life as he did before. But Tang activates another device, claiming that Hao Han will have to ask him in the next life. With a bright flash, the entire floor of Bao's company headquarters bursts into flames. Minutes later, Lin arrives with the police force and finds the protagonist in terrible shape. However, Ren is in even worse condition and needs to be taken to the hospital immediately. Seeing this, Lin asks how the boy is unscathed after such an explosion, and the hero explains that Ren saved him. After the explosion, the protagonist's sword transformed into an umbrella, absorbing the full shock of the blast. Although he still hit the wall hard, it was Ren who took all the damage for her young master, leaving Hao Han desperate. With things calmer, Lin reflects on how insane the people behind this are. The hero, however, reveals that it was Tang who caused it, and that he isn't dead because he has another card of his sleeve. Additionally, after this staged death, Tang has likely already taken Bao's ultra-secret program. Hao Han rushes up the stairs with Lin following close behind, and upon reaching the boss's office, they find the secretary tied up. Removing her gag, the blonde reveals that Cao Tati is also involved in the theft of the program. This prompts Lin to ask where the guild members were to allow intruders to enter so easily. The secretary explains that, unfortunately, everyone had been bought off with Keo's fortune. In a distant location, Tang wakes up once again, screaming in despair from his recent death. Despite the immense pain, he commits to not failing again, until a phone rings. Answering it, Tang finds Kao on the line, asking where he is. Later, the two meet, and the Hare is furious about his ruined reputation. Initially, the ex-police officer promised to help him win over Bao, but instead he blew up the company building. Regardless, Tang asks for the flash drive he told him to bring, but now the boy no longer wants to do business with this lunatic. So he warns that the people after the ex-cop should be enough to deal with him. However, Tang is unfazed by these thugs, knowing he is far stronger. Without wasting any more time, Kao orders everyone to attack, promising a reward of 1 million to whoever finishes him off. All the mercenaries charge eagerly, but Tang equips the Shadow of the Night, an A-rank item. He effortlessly destroys every one of the naive attackers who thought they could kill him. Back at the Kangshin company, Bao cannot believe her program has been stolen. The hero remarks that if other powerful people discover the descent, it will be dangerous, but unfortunately there is no way to deactivate it remotely. Lin asks if they can simply create another set of programs to even the playing field. Bao, however, thinks it will be difficult as even the databases are destroyed and recollecting the data would take months. Fortunately, the protagonist assures her she doesn't need to gather the data again because she can ask the system for anything. Bao questions what that is, but since it's hard to explain, the hero describes Wang Xiang as the genius developer of the game she mentioned. Naturally, she is shocked to learn that the developer is actually an artificial intelligence. Getting straight to the point, the hero asks if Wang Xiang can provide the necessary data. Although the system agrees, it imposes a condition: a libidinous act between Hao Han and Bao. Returning to Tang's massacre, he questions why his enemies are now too scared to advance. Reaching level 4 only motivates him further to keep taking down these weaklings. However, feeling tired, he announces that anyone who wants to switch sides is welcome to do so. To those who submit, the ex-cop guarantees they can do whatever they want in the world. Fearing for their lives, the mercenaries kneel, but with so many people, money becomes an issue. Tang asks Kao if he truly has all that money, but the boy starts crying, admitting he is middle class. Regardless, the ex-cop threatens the boy, stating he'll kill him if his father doesn't offer 300 million. Terrified, the Hare runs off with everything he has, and Tang orders his new subordinates to chase him. Now with money, subordinates, and insider information, Tang declares that he will definitely kill Hao Han and conquer the world. Later, in another house, the protagonist has just finished his bath, and in the bedroom, Bao and Lin sit on opposite sides of the bed without noticing each other. The hero tries to talk to the policewoman, but she refuses to respond. Hao Han then tells Miss Bao that it's not too late to change her mind. However, in front of him, she removes her clothes and blushing states that this is the path to reclaim what she lost. Before doing anything though, she announces that she will take a bath. Wang Xiang then appears, saying this is the first time they are working together, but Hao Han shouts that it's disgusting to force a girl into something like this. What he didn't expect, however, was the possibility that Bao's actions weren't against her will. The system reveals that it can collect data on human reactions, and based on her data, Bao has secretly been in love with him for a long time. Thus, Hao Han changes his stance, and Wang Xiang explains that it's merely helping Bao realize her desires. At that moment, however, she was hurled forcefully at the TV. Lin declares that she's going to sleep and warns that if she hears anything inappropriate, she'll kill the hero. Once again, the system exposes someone detecting high estrogen levels in Lin. Without delay, Bao hugs the hero from behind and explains why she's willing to go through with this. With great sincerity, she says that the calm and confidence the boy displayed when facing her were things she had never seen before. Most people respect Bao, but always show eyes full of desire, unlike the protagonist, who manages to be natural. The hero responds that he doesn't ignore her, but is simply slow to pick up on signals. Before he can finish his sentence, Bao takes the initiative and kisses him. Naturally, things escalate while Lin tries not to pay attention. Bao takes on a much more dominant role, and since the system loves to watch, the two decide to put on a show. From the moment Lin joined the police force, she became the center of attention. But even as she saw people pursuing her, Lin couldn't bear the idea of being conquered by someone weak. Later, she joined the special service office with high grades, and even fewer people dared to approach her, except for the playboy Tang. When she first met the protagonist, she also thought of him as a common loser. But his actions afterward made her believe that he might be her true soulmate. So seeing her destined soulmate in bed with another woman was something very difficult for Lin to endure. Back to the intimate scene, Bao is experiencing pain in a very specific place and says she can't take it anymore. However, the protagonist tells her there is still time left to complete the task. Because of this, Hao Han shamelessly asks Lin for help. Obviously, she refuses, embarrassed, saying she's not as shameless as the two of them. However, looking at Bao, who is sweating profusely, she admits that Hao Han cannot be monopolized. As she struggles to endure the broom, Bao pleads with Lin for help. The policewoman ultimately agrees, both because of Bao's insistence and her own curiosity. Without wasting time, Lin gets ready as if she were about to take a shower, and Bao feels relieved to finally rest. Hao Han announces that he's going to fit the piece into the puzzle, and Lin appears eager to see what he has to offer. The moment she feels the protagonist's touch, she begins to understand Bao's complaints. Without any previous suspicious context, Lin starts riding a white horse. For some reason, she feels pain and asks the horse to slow down because she can't handle it anymore. Eventually, the animal neighs, signaling it has also reached its limit, and they both fall to the ground to rest. After this entirely non-metaphorical nature ride, Lin declares that she accepts the horse. Even though it's very strange, she also says it's wonderful at the same time. With his work finally done, the protagonist asks if the system is satisfied now. However, the TV begins to display strange codes, which worries Hao Han. Lin and Bao ask what's happening, but the system assures them it's fine. It explains that the previous data is now coming in abundance. This causes the system to evolve into a 2D image of a cute little girl, leaving Hao Han very surprised. Without further ado, Wangxing announces that it will send the files to Bao so she can rebuild the program. After some time working on it, Lin asks Bao if she can now predict when the next descent will occur. But there's no need to stress about the program anymore because the event can be seen happening again through the window. Hao Han then tells Bao to focus on locating the resource zone because he's going there to finish off Tang. From the top of the building, Lin asks if they still have time. Fortunately, Bao works quickly on her laptop and confirms that she has already located the resource zone. Tang definitely hasn't left the city, but since they've lost the initiative, there's a chance they might arrive too late. However, a teleportation device could change the situation, and conveniently, Bao has one. After some time traveling through a wormhole, they arrive and Hao Han is curious about how Bao possesses such an item. Bao explains that as the leader of such a large guild, she naturally has some useful resources stored away. Lin notices that they're already one step behind as there are traces of the villains at the site. It also appears that there isn't just one group here as evidence of a recent battle is visible. Something seems to be dragging the bodies inside, prompting Hao Han to ask if this could be Tang's doing again. But Lin asserts that the tracks are not consistent with human work and instead suggests some kind of ferocious beast. Either way, they have no choice but to advance and take a look inside. Once inside, Bao questions why there's no one there, no electricity, and Lin suggests calling for reinforcements. However, the hero knows there isn't time and insists they must handle this themselves. Things feel very strange when a dry corpse vanishes upon the appearance of a being. The protagonist looks but doesn't see anything, and the girls ask if something is wrong. Before he can investigate further, they all hear a gut-wrenching noise from the second floor. When they arrive, a man is firing non-stop, yelling at everyone to go to hell. But suddenly, something swiftly strikes the shooter, killing him with a blow to the neck. The protagonist wonders what it could be, but Bao senses something strange nearby. When she turns, she comes face to face with a giant spider. Terrified, the girl screams for help, and fortunately, the hero saves her by destroying the spider with his blood dragon punch. Feeling proud of his abilities, Hao Han asks if the blonde is alright. Unfortunately, the situation isn't resolved by killing just one spider, as the trio realizes they are in the middle of the nest of these monsters. In this case, Lin and Bao ask what they should do, but the only sensible option is to run as fast as possible. After a long sprint, they reach a place with a door. However, it's locked and the girls can't open it. The hero simply forces the gate open, knocking down two men who were inside. Upon closer inspection, he realizes there's an entire group of people hiding there. But the men are furious, yelling that after all their effort to avoid the spiders, the hero brought them right back like an idiot. The girls quickly run inside, and Lin barely manages to close the door. However, with several armed thugs threatening them, the hero remarks that the inside is worse than the outside. Lin pulls out her weapon, identifying herself as a police officer. Hao Han clarifies that he doesn't want to cause trouble and asks if the men are hotel staff, but unsurprisingly, all the employees are already dead. The hero then asks if they're connected to Tang. Upon hearing they are, he isn't surprised Tang isn't there. After all, it's in that bastard's nature to put his men at risk without showing up himself. Ignoring this, the thugs threaten Hao Han, but he warns that any move will make him open the door. Although scared, Tang's subordinates assume he's bluffing. After all, the three of them are closest to the entrance and will be the first to die. For Hao Han, however, it makes no difference, since they'll all meet the same fate. He warns them that he'll count to 3. Still, the subordinates don't believe him. The hero decides to skip the count and orders Lin to open the door, causing everyone to panic. The thugs quickly surrender, much to everyone's relief, and the hero praises their decision. Minutes later, the delinquents are tied up and the group leader explains that Tang ordered them to come and collect resources. However, as soon as they entered, they were attacked by the seemingly endless swarm of spiders, and one by one, their comrades died. Getting straight to the point, Hao Han demands to know where Tang is, but the man claims he doesn't know. Naturally, the hero doesn't believe him and drags the bandit toward the spiders, threatening to throw him in. This forces him to reveal that Tang is hiding at his base in Meshin. Hao Han praises Tang's skill at staying hidden, but decides to head there immediately. Lin, however, questions how they'll leave as everyone is aware of the spider's power. Since they're spiders, the hero believes they'll be afraid of fire. Knowing there are many monsters waiting outside, Hao-Han blasts the entrance with a burst of fire. Engulfed in flames, the spiders indeed retreat, surprising the girls. Before they can successfully escape, a giant spider that Hao-Han failed to detect pierces his chest with its stinger, lifting him off the ground. To reassure the boy, Lin draws her weapon and declares that she will save him. The giant spider, however, calmly states there's no need to worry as it doesn't plan to kill him. It says it will release the boy as long as the girls help it with something. The level 5 spider demands approximately 500 people to eat in exchange for the hero's life. Hao-Han finds the request suspicious and asks why it doesn't hunt for itself. The spider becomes irritated, striking him again and asserting that he has no right to negotiate. It then orders the girls to hurry, warning that if they take longer than an hour, the boy will become impotent, and after 2 hours, he will die. What concerns the girls most, however, is the possibility of Hao-Han becoming impotent. The spiders create a path for the girls to pass, so they decide to leave immediately. And while Lin says he will go for reinforcements at the department, Bao will head to the hospital to call Ren and Jin. Upon seeing that the girls managed to escape, the bandits thought they could do the same, but unfortunately, they didn't have an agreement with the queen. After some time, the protagonist finally manages to regain control of his body. But along with many skeletons, he also realizes that he is in the middle of the queen's lair, and at the lower part of the webs, other bandits are also being prepared to be eaten. Then the hero wonders if Tang is also among the captured. When the spider queen appears, she approaches one of these trapped bodies and pierces it with her stinger, making it melt and causing her great pleasure. This allows her to lay more eggs of small spider monsters. Faced with the number of spiders, the hero asks if all of them were born through her. And the queen states that the protagonist will find out when the girls bring the bodies from the agreement, but she also warns that she will still kill Hao-Han. In this case, the hero feels a bit more at ease, realizing she's just crazy and not the third girl from the descent. But the Spider Queen is not at all pleased to be called that and even considers finishing off Hao-Han right away. Anyway, the hero is no longer worried because the queen is using all these tricks, meaning she cannot leave because she's afraid of sunlight. And with the queen's disbelieving reaction, the boy's suspicion is confirmed. The reason she chose this place was precisely because many people would come here, as it's where valuable resources are found. Even so, the hero still tried to obtain information about the items before her death, but the queen wasn't that foolish. In this situation, Hao-Han gives up pretending he's trapped and activates his blue dragon armor, breaking the queen's stinger, leaving her in disbelief because at this point the venom should have been working in his body. Then the hero explained that in the beginning it was indeed effective, but after using the cold heart pill, he changed his fire attribute to poison. This was something that Queen really didn't expect, but she still believed she could kill Hao-Han. Without wasting time, she sent all of her children to tear the boy apart. Although now fully healed, our hero still has no poison-type abilities. Therefore, he calls upon the system's cards and says that since he's fulfilling all its wishes, he expects to receive something good. But when the hero looks at the drawn card, he cannot understand its meaning. Naturally, he is startled and notices a very familiar little girl on the skill. Then Hao-Han thinks that if he hadn't summoned the system, he should have tried to choose another. Anyway, our hero accepts his luck. And when the system appears, it informs him that with this super rare card, Hao-Han will no longer need electronics to see it. However, for the protagonist, nothing could be worse. And while the two were chatting, the queen was only growing more irritated. Just the thought that the boy might be mocking her makes the spider attack with everything she has, throwing the two far away. Anyway, the hero asks what kind of abilities the girl has to help defeat the lunatic. Due to her low level, she cannot conjure weapons, but she can provide some ordinary items, which is better than nothing. However, the options she offers are a jade bed, a dragon tendon kite, and a fabric from a mysterious bird. This, of course, makes our hero ask if the system is joking. Hearing this, the queen bursts out laughing, saying she had never encountered such a strange pair. Without wasting any more time, Hao-Han asks if there's anything that could be of help, and the system informs him that in its current state, it cannot provide anything with combat power. In this case, the hero asks if at least it's possible to summon Tang's transport support. Then the girl starts searching and asks if the protagonist is planning to escape. However, the queen would not let the escape happen, and to end things quickly, she transformed into her most powerful form. Thus, Hao-Han warns that he won't last much longer and that Wanqing must inform him when she finds it. This way, the queen charges forward with huge claws in place of hands. Hao-Han barely defends himself, but the attack makes him think about how many humans the spider has killed to become so strong. Unfortunately, the armor's shield doesn't withstand the attack, and when it breaks, the hero is almost struck in the face. However, a second strike is effective, causing Hao-Han to be thrown hard against the wall. At the last second, Wanqing throws the item to the boy, and even stuck to the wall by the spider's webs, the hero manages to catch it. Therefore, Hao-Han starts to smile and activates the item, creating a rift in the structure of the place. In this case, the queen asks if the boy still plans to escape through the tunnel, even though he can't breathe due to the pressure of the web. But Hao-Han never planned to flee because help came from the outside, with the daylight quickly hitting the spider. Indeed, the hero never thought the sun could be so powerful. Now fully recovered, he activates the dragon armor. Then the queen begins to realize that since the boy is no longer stuck in the web, he planned for her to remain immobilized. This was entirely correct because the hero was merely buying time. In this case, the queen desperately pleads for her life, saying she can serve as a mount or anything else. However, Han has no interest in any of that, which leads him to crush her mercilessly. With the battle over, Xing doesn't understand why the boy doesn't ask about the items, but he assures her he will find them sooner or later. Moreover, he has more important matters to deal with, such as the fact that he leveled up twice at once. But instead of feeling happy, Han asks if the system noticed. Previously, there was a congratulatory message for being the first. However, now level 5 there was none, which might indicate that Tang leveled up first. Upon leaving the hotel, our hero encounters Lin's reinforcements, which just arrived. In this case, Han informs them that you will go after Tang because the spiders have already been defeated and asks the girl to secure the building and search for the items. The officer offers to go along, but this is unnecessary since more people would only attract unwanted attention. Thus, Lin happily comments that it's good the boy is well, but suddenly, a soldier shouts that someone is at the top of the stairs. And because this person is running at high speed, the police start shooting. With that, Lin orders Team 1 to follow because they cannot let this stranger escape. She wonders if Tang's team is still in the building searching for the rare items. Later, in Meishan, a group of men laughs heartily during a trip because they are now rich. One of them says the boss was right, and since they really found items, they comment that Tang is a genius. However, the two hear a strange noise, but initially the bald one tells his partner to focus on the road because it's probably nothing. Then he comments that they should hurry so the boss doesn't think they're keeping the items for themselves. But unfortunately for them, Han hears everything from atop the car. Later, the subordinates arrive at the headquarters and wonder why the boss chose such a deserted place. Upon getting out of the car, one asks Lao Wei how the haul went, and the man replies that they gathered a total of 18 items. In this case, Lao asks about the last group, and since they haven't returned yet, the bald one suggests the signal might be weak on the road. Either way, they still don't know where the boss is, and Han manages to tap into their conversation from under the car like a professional. To the hero, it's incredible that Tang has the ability to gather so many people in such a short time, and he knows they need a secure location for the boss's arrival. At this moment, the hare from before complains about his condition, and his jailer says it's this or wetting his pants. Thus, Keo cries because even after giving all his money, they still haven't released him, which the guard couldn't care less about. However, to his luck, someone who did care was Han, who quickly knocked the bully out. Obviously, the hare is very scared, so at the same moment, the hero covers the boy's mouth. He tells him that if he utters a single word, he will face a fate far worse than dealing with the bandits. Minutes later, Cal barely manages to thank him for the help, but Han is honest and warns that everything is happening by coincidence. In any case, the hare gets dressed to go along and then asks where the car is. But the hero doesn't know which car he's referring to, prompting Keo to ask if they'll have to descend the mountain on foot. With a devilish smile on his face, Han warns that they'll have a car as soon as they finish stealing one. Later, the two arrive at the main gate disguised, and the guard asks why they took so long. The protagonist explains that the child has been having severe bladder issues. After a few more lame excuses, the security guard lets them pass. With that, Keo points to the boss's room, but before anything else, the hare warns that they must be cautious because there are dozens of people in the building. The protagonist enters the room and encounters a beautiful woman, which immediately worries him again due to his history. In response, Han comments that this doesn't seem like Tang's style. The woman laughs but says she wouldn't be there for no reason. She explains that before meeting the boss, the boy would have to defeat her in combat. Faced with this bizarre situation, the hero asks how the girl's hands can transform like that, and the system informs him that she's a chemical mutant from the game. In this case, the protagonist feels a bit concerned, thinking the game was supposed to be only about cultivation, but Xing is quite proud of its creations. Without further conversation, the girl leaps to attack, but our hero dodges and simply asks about her boss. Although the mutant does not cooperate, Han continues dodging with ease, even mocking her by asking if all the girls in the game are like this. However, the system watches in amazement as the boy defends himself so easily without any equipment. This is, in fact, a result of his character attributes evolving. But since the girl isn't using her full power yet, she decides to go all out. She modifies her tongue into something resembling a drill. This makes Han remark that he never wants to see anyone from the biohazard species again. With her full transformation complete, the girl announces she will kill the hero. The boy, however, is more concerned about how she's still talking with her mouth like that. The mutant gets irritated by these comments and charges at high speed, managing to tear the hero's shirt. Even so, the protagonist keeps dodging attack after attack, driving the system wild. It's clear that while the mutant gains speed, if a single attack lands, the hero's body will be crushed. To help, Xing shouts for Han not to push himself and to retreat from the battle. But it's already too late, and the protagonist activates his blue dragon armor at the last second. The girl's attack strikes the hard carapace and rebounds against her. Seeing this, the hero comments that while the girl may be fast, she's not as clever as he is. Witnessing this strategy, the system becomes euphoric, and Han remarks that he didn't use the armor earlier to avoid alerting the opponent. At that moment, the two hear a noise outside, worrying the hero about being discovered. Han leaves the room and asks Kao what's happening, which, fortunately for them, turns out to be the arrival of the police. Lin quickly climbs the stairs to meet the boys. The hero asks why she's there since he asked her to stay at the hotel. Exhausted, the officer explains that someone stole all the resources from the place and fled there. She then asks if there's anyone suspicious, and after a brief analysis, Han notices a noise coming from a room. Without wasting time, they realize the girl is stealing items again. The protagonist launches a fire blast that explodes next to her to prevent her escape. He immediately moves toward her, saying that since she's the second girl of the night, he won't hold back anymore. What he didn't expect, however, was for the girl to surrender, saying she admires the protagonist. To Lin's dismay, the third girl from the descent introduces herself as Duke Xianjiao and says she's there to marry the hero. Moreover, she says they could do that before the wedding, leaving Han stunned that she'd say something like that right after introducing herself. Lin pushes the girl back, calling her a liar and telling her to stop making up stories. Finally, she demands Xianjiao explain why she's stealing the items and whether she has any connection to Tang. While immobilized, the pink-haired girl explains that stealing whenever possible is a tradition of the Thieves clan, especially as part of their engagement test. The system then explains that the Thieves clan lives in the Wind Village in the west, and with around 400 members, they are excellent at stealth tasks. Thus, the hero stops the officer and asks what the rookie means by the engagement test. For the Thieves clan, the hero is the savior who will defeat the Demon King, and because of this, Xianjiao intends to marry him to make that request. In this case, the protagonist gently informs her that he can help without the two having to get married. However, the girl punches the hero because solving it that way is not allowed. The Thieves clan has a very clear rule of not accepting help from strangers unless they are spouses. Thus, the protagonist says they can discuss this later. In this case, the girl is very happy because her father wanted her to marry Red Moinho, but she always thought the idea of being with the hero was better. Han asks if the girl is actually running away from her marriage, and she says yes. With this, the protagonist asks if Xianjiao isn't afraid that the Demon King will kill everyone in the clan, but she replies that she'll be fine as long as she brings the savior. Next, Han asks if this monarch is very powerful, and unfortunately, the girl explains that even the entire clan isn't capable of defeating him. However, all this information is intercepted by Tang, who now knows everything. Suddenly, the villain feels something very pleasurable because a girl is kneeling and praying to him. Out of curiosity, she asks what the boss finds so interesting on the computer. But Tang evades the question, saying that it is she who is interesting, and so the two reunite. Later, in a new house, the hero introduces Ren and Zhu to the newest member. Then Xianjiao, with great excitement, announces that she is the protagonist's fiancée and asks the two to take care of her. However, naturally, the two become very irritated, especially with Han. In this case, Xianjiao questions what is wrong because to her it's obvious that the two are soulmates. Therefore, realizing the girl wants to compete, Jin draws her sword, challenging her to a duel. And Xianjiao accepts but warns that if the elder destroys the house again, she'll have to sleep outside. Meanwhile, the hero no longer cares if the house will be destroyed as long as it happens quickly. Suddenly, the boy's phone rings, and upon asking what it is, Bao on the line informs him that she has extracted the game's back end and found nothing about biohumans. In other words, the blonde doesn't believe that mutant arrived through the descent. Thus, the hero suggests that Tang mastered a way to open the channels directly. And if that's the case, Bao comments that he can already summon any character from the other world. Therefore, it's a fact that he will take more action soon, and now our hero must be very careful. After this stressful conversation, Han lies on the bed and wonders how Tang can do all of this. In a place surrounded by scientists and executives, a very innovative experiment begins. In the middle of everyone is Yang, who asks Professor Zhang how the progress is going. Then the scientist explains that it is almost working because the person behind the software is a true genius. But within seconds, Zhang manages to identify the dimensional location of the game's characters, which prompts him to activate the system. Thus, from the middle of the place, a black portal emerges, leaving everyone in a panic. And from within it comes the true Demon King from the other world, who is curious to know who summoned him. For this reason, Tang kneels along with his henchmen, announcing that he is responsible for the summoning. And without delay, he states that he knows the whereabouts of the king's runaway fiancé and suggests they work together. The next day, the protagonist wakes up tired but gets up quickly after hearing a commotion outside the house. And there was Kao with a group of musicians, but he was completely impressed by the beauty of the girls who came to greet him. And not just their facial beauty, because as a good pervert, he notices other body measurements. Faced with this, the protagonist appears and asks if someone is getting married, but Ren informs him that these people claim to know him. Then, upon taking a better look, the boy recognizes Kao Tati, which makes him throw himself onto the hero. While crying, the hero apologizes to his daddy for offending him before, but Han makes a point of shouting that he is not his father. In any case, Ko thanks his dad again, saying that he will follow everything he says to atone for his sins. In this case, the hero decides to leave and Ren invites him to have breakfast, but he has already lost his appetite. However, Kao asks the protagonist to wait because there is still something important to report. Now inside, Han asks what important information this is. Then the boy explains that when he was captured, he met a professor who had been kidnapped by Tang. All he knew about the name was that the surname was Liu, but it was clear the two were building something together. Later, Bao identified this man as the leading expert in quantum mechanics who was kidnapped 3 days ago, which made his abduction make sense. In that case, Han asks what Tang wants with him, and the girl says that while they don't know, it can't be anything good. Hearing this, the hero agrees but starts to feel drawn to Bao's beauty. The girl continues, saying she will monitor particle fluctuations to track traces. Changing the subject, Bao mentions she has a gift for the hero, and he thanks her without looking at her face. She then asks why his face is so red, but Han excuses it, saying he's just feeling hot. Regardless, the girl says she'll go get the gift. While she's gone, the hero questions why he feels so nervous, even though he's already close to her. Meanwhile, Bao retrieves a box and says that after the last incident, she won't dare leave important things lying around anymore. The hero murmurs to himself that things escalated quickly last time and that they should continue exploring each other. Without further ado, the blonde hands him a bracelet, and when he asks what it's for, she tells him to touch it. Bao then explains that this is an item she created herself, with the ability to store and activate resources when needed. It is said to be especially useful for items with limited usage time, so the hero thanks her. Finally, Bao informs him that along with Lin, they concluded they should focus on Han to defeat Tang, which is why the girl went to seek help from the director. However, at the department, the officer receives a firm no to her request. The girl's father explains that while the items are there, he has no authority over them, which infuriates Lin because if they remain idle, they'll be stolen again. To explain himself, Wanshin says the major ordered that the person managing the resources must be someone of high rank with values and discipline. But Lin doesn't agree, as it's obvious the major is referring to himself. Later, two acquaintances laugh in a luxurious room. One of them, Major Liu Bo, says that since everything is already in hand, it will depend on the other now. Liu Chuang, the top student and medal holder of the major, tells his father not to worry because he will deal with Tang. However, since Yuna's special forces couldn't defeat the ex-policeman, the father advises against such recklessness. But hearing that Tang is Han's declared enemy, Bo believes they can use one as bait to draw out the other. Later, the hero asks why he's being called. Jin explains that since the military claimed not to know how to use the items, they asked for the protagonist's help. However, the major wasn't there and everything was being destroyed. While testing the resources, Chuang tries to convince a journalist to save a headline for 2 days later, promising it will be groundbreaking. In exchange, he offers to take her out to dinner another day. After hanging up, the boy greets the hero Han, whom he's heard about, but the hero says he's no hero at all. Nonetheless, the major's son continues flattering him, and Han gradually gives in, which makes Lin suspicious. Getting straight to the point, Chuang claims to be humble and scared by his task, asking the hero to help him develop his skills. In response, Han asks if he really wants to do this because these battles are not a game and people truly die. Despite appreciating the concern, Chuang insists that he doesn't care about the risks and is willing to sacrifice himself for his country. Radiating his savior's aura, he declares that he'll go to hell in place of others. However, this over-the-top demeanor is almost unbearable to watch. Chuang then asks how it went, and a film crew confirms that it was very inspiring, even without tears. In this case, the major's son orders the staff to add a beauty filter and send it to the TV station immediately. This leaves Lin and Han quite embarrassed. Regardless, the protagonist tries not to dampen the mood and returns to the topic of combat training. But now the security guards rush in with wine and a chair for the young master. Unexpectedly, Chuang declares that he is exhausted from standing for so long and doesn't want to get involved in this mess anymore. Lin, on the other hand, considers this an ungrateful attitude since the country is selecting superpowered elites and they are taking advantage of the opportunity. It is said that this is still classified information, but according to the military leader, when you are chosen, your relevance increases to an enormous level. However, Chuang says he has no interest in joining a national team and that if it weren't for his father, he wouldn't even be there. Still, he has some skills, such as having located where Tang Sayo is hiding. Since the boy has connections both in the underworld and with the authorities, finding someone isn't difficult. He then hands the location to the hero, but Han asks why they're outsourcing the job. The major's son replies that it's obvious. It's an unnecessary risk when there's someone else capable of doing it. Lin in turn asks if the information is reliable and trusting his source so much, Chuang bets his life on it. Thus, Han rushes off and the officer says she will contact reinforcements. The protagonist doesn't want to waste any time because they finally have the enemy's location. And with that, Chuang orders the detention center to mobilize. Later, the information leads them to the abandoned suburbs near the water treatment plant. However, Hao Han isn't in a hurry because he wants to see what the Major's son is up to. When questioned, the hero explains that it's unlikely such a narcissistic man would miss this chance to promote himself at his expense. In this case, Lin is quite impressed with the boy's acting talent, as even knowing everything from the start, he still played his part well. At the moment, the hero understands that it's probably a trap, but he's still curious to see how Tang will appear. Suddenly, the officer receives a call about a power outage at the prison, where all the supervillains have escaped. This includes the people brought there 2 days ago from Meishan, who have also fled. In desperation, the officer orders the person in charge to organize a citywide manhunt for the criminals. Later, some bandits inform the chaos at the detention center to explain why they are there. That's why everyone asks for one more chance from the boss, saying they will always follow him. However, with the police spread all over the city, Tang's advisor warns that something might be wrong. But one of the bandits brings information that Hao Han is on a mission at the water treatment plant. The ex-prisoner says he heard about it last night from a guard passing in front of the cell. However, since Tang is not naive, he understands that someone is trying to set a trap. In this case, the advisor asks if they should just ignore it, but Tang states that as long as their target will be there, that's enough. At the Major's son's house, a security guard praises his master's brilliant move, who is feeling very proud. Now all that remains for Chu Wang is to wait for the two to tire themselves out so he can show up at the last minute and take all the glory. However, both Tang and Hao Han already have plans to turn this situation around. After waiting for a long time, Lin finally spots Tang through binoculars, along with 2 others. With the main character present, the hero comments that the supporting characters can show up now. Thus, he calls the system to search for Chu Wang's spies nearby. However, Wang Xing warns that he is merely an observer and cannot intervene directly in the events. Thus, Hao Han says that with some help he can make a new arrangement with Lin next time. The system asks if it's a promise, and our hero doesn't think twice. Consequently, Wang Xing starts looking at the girl with a different expression. Without further delay, he flies off to search for the spies, prompting the hero to comment that although strange, the system is kind. Meanwhile, the subordinates spot the boss and see no one around. That's why the Shopi Shikamaru asks what's going on and if they might be walking into a trap. But Tang sees no danger and decides it's better to sit and wait patiently. From atop a mountain, a spy reports that only Tang is present. Shuing, who is on his way, becomes desperate to find out where the hero is. As he's already so close, he doesn't even want to think about the possibility of the protagonist not showing up. But while Hao Han was chasing the spy, he still believed there was a chance the boy had escaped. However, knowing better, Chu Wang orders his security guard to turn back, but suddenly, another person on the line informs him of the hero's presence. The person then adds that the two are already fighting, which is exactly what the Major's son wanted to hear. Chu Wang announces he'll arrive shortly, and now with a bruised face, the spy asks if he can leave. Although he's allowed to go, he doesn't head home, but instead to jail. 15 minutes later, the Major's son's car arrives, and the security guard reports that the area is clear. But Chu Wang firmly believes this is because the fight is already over. The driver breaks through the treatment station's gate, and the boy steps out of the car, full of swagger, claiming he'll clean up the trash. However, he's startled when he sees that both Tang and his subordinates are still there. In response, the boss asks who this idiot is, and his advisor immediately orders the others to capture him. Unfortunately for Chu Wang, even the chance to escape disappears when his security guard drives off with the car. Realizing his situation, the Major's son prepares to fight with the items he has. But within minutes, Chu Wang is beaten so badly that he cries out for his father. The subordinates start kicking the boy like a ball while mocking his earlier confidence. Tang then asks where Hao Han is, but the boy insists he doesn't know because he was tricked by him. However, the ex-policeman believes that to pull something like this, Hao Han must be nearby, watching. Back at the mountain, Lin asks if they should leave, and since Chu Wang was useless even with so many resources, Hao Han thinks it's better not to risk a direct confrontation. At that moment, however, the Demon King appears behind the protagonist after searching for him for a long time. An explosion occurs at the top of the mountain, and Tang realizes the little rat has been caught by the cat. Back at the top, Hao Han narrowly escapes the attack while holding Lin. The Demon King praises his agility, saying that if it were anyone else, they would have been shattered into pieces like the spy. The protagonist replies that it's an honor, but Lin is deeply worried because he's not entirely unscathed. Asking the system for help informs him that this is a character from the game, but its status information is difficult to discern. Wang Xing advises Hao Han to request cards to improve his luck, but the hero knows there's no time. Getting straight to the point, the protagonist asks the Lord of the Abyss why he's there and what the reason is for his alliance with Tang. Unfortunately for him, the Demon King is there for a personal reason, because standing before him is the thief who stole his fiancée. Hao Han freezes in stress, already planning to kill Xianyao when he gets back. Returning to the subject, the Abyss Lord states that after this fight, he will kill half the population just to savor the scent of fear in the air. In response, the hero begins telling a story about a purple potato spirit who had similar thoughts in the past. But as he asks what happened to the spirit, Hao Han throws a portal item on the ground, sending Lin to a distant location. Seeing this, the Demon King grows curious about why Hao Han didn't escape along with her. The boy explains that even if his body passed through, there would still be time for his head to be struck. The Abyss Lord finds this decision quite reasonable. With no further obstacles, Hao Han activates his blue dragon armor to fight without restraint. However, the Demon King prepares a highly destructive black energy attack, forcing the hero into a defensive stance. Even with an S-rank armor barrier, the boy struggles to defend against the attack. The Demon King compares his resistance to a praying mantis trying to stop a carriage. The Abyss Lord then adds another finger to the energy release, and with this power boost, another explosion occurs. When something falls from the top of the mountain, everyone becomes curious to understand what it is. But it's our hero, and despite the system suggesting he hide, Hao Han knows this will only enrage the Demon King further. From above, the Abyss Lord prepares an attack using the strength of his entire hand. As it approaches, even Tang grows worried about being caught in the blast. Thus, an explosion the size of a city block creates an immense crater in the ground. Tang, now flying, thanks the king for helping to kill Hao Han, but the Lord informs him that he is still alive. For Tang, this is impossible, as all his subordinates were reduced to pieces. However, while still uncertain, the Demon King suspects it might be an illusion. At the same moment, in another place, Hao Han wakes up confused, wondering if he's dead. The system tells him not to be crazy because if he dies, the game cannot be completed. Wanxing also explains that he brought the boy to a dungeon because it was the only place possible to hide. Additionally, the system made sure to bring the hero to the easiest E-rank dungeon, and since time moves slower there, it's possible to complete it and return in seconds. In this case, the hero becomes excited to find the boss, but the system warns him about a black bear nearby that's worth being cautious of. What the protagonist didn't expect, however, was that this place would actually be a D-ranked dungeon with a level 10 dragon boss. At the department house, Ren and the others ask what's going on. After resting a little, Lin shouts for them to follow her because Hao Han is in danger. Back in the dungeon, the protagonist asks if he can simply pick the cards, but the system informs him that even with the best item, it won't be enough to win. In this case, Hao Han asks how many rounds are needed to reach level 9, and if all goes well, Wanxing says 30. This doesn't make the boy happy at all because with so many rounds, he thinks it would be better to go to a more difficult dungeon. However, the system insists he should proceed even if it doesn't make sense to him, because with his current strength, Hao Han would die against a D-rank monster. It is said that there are still smaller, easier monsters, but in this E-rank dungeon, it's ideal to go straight to the boss. From atop a tree, a goblin attacks the protagonist, and he asks if this is the boss. But unexpectedly, it's just a common forest monster, which leaves Hao Han impressed, especially because the system said it would be an easy fight, yet the monster completely destroyed the ground with a single attack. Obviously, the boy asks if this is the level of a normal opponent, so Wanxing checks the stats and confirms that this is the boss. In this case, the protagonist is happy that he doesn't need to chase it down and that it's only one level above him. But Wanxing starts to suspect something as he doesn't remember creating a dungeon with a goblin boss. Without wasting time, the hero asks for the luck of the cards, and when choosing, he picks the equipment card. Before the attack is even finished, the goblin's club is cut in half because the hero gains an SS rank legendary item. Apparently, losing his weapon also causes the monster to lose his composure. Therefore, with his new lightning attribute sword, the boy speeds past and defeats the goblin. Feeling good now, Hao Han earns 500 experience points, which is very exciting. Now the protagonist is at level 6, and despite not having a class, he already has high stats. In light of this, Hao Han asks if he should wait for the dungeon to reset to kill a boss again, and Wanxing agrees even though the experience will decrease. However, at that moment, something catches their attention as a troop of goblins suddenly appears. Naturally, Hao Han is confused as to whether this is normal, but now the system is certain they're in the wrong dungeon. In this place, a level 6 is insignificant, and since the system can't predict how strong the boss will be, the hero becomes worried. Wanxing, in turn, apologizes for the mistake, but now the priority is to focus on survival. Coincidentally, when the protagonist's sword activates its power, the goblins suddenly flee in a rush. This makes Hao Han think he managed to scare off the monsters. However, to his misfortune, Wanxing quickly informs him that the goblins weren't afraid of him, because right behind him was the earth-armored dragon, the true boss of the dungeon. Faced with the massive creature, the protagonist sarcastically remarks that it seems very gentle, and the system informs him that the only way out is to kill the monster or die. Because of this, Hao Han becomes furious, but Wanxing explains that dying here only results in a loss of experience and doesn't affect the real world. In this case, the protagonist thinks it's better to keep leveling up with goblins and return later. But the dragon prepares a killing blow, showing that it has no intention of letting the warrior leave. And so, the energy released from the monster's mouth destroys an entire mountain. The entire path of the roar was vaporized, and now the system searches for Hao Han. Fortunately, the hero is still alive and breathing, though his armor is nearly completely destroyed. Grateful for the armor's efforts, he notices a message warning that its durability is now at 40%. At the moment, Hao Han doesn't believe the dragon could chase him from such a distance. But Wanxiang, with some guilt, admits that while she designed the dragon for slow movements, she added a special skill. Because of this, the dragon begins recharging its ability and Hao Han starts being pulled toward the attack area. There's no time to react as the armor's durability won't hold, and if it breaks, the hero won't have the level required to face the dungeon. In this case, the boy commands Wanxiang to quickly find any resource that might help. Suddenly, the sword that was anchoring the hero to the ground loosens, and in desperation, he is pulled back. In an attempt to counterattack, a lightning bolt is fired at the dragon's head, but it has no effect. Hao Han charges forward with the blue dragon armor shield activated, and despite his courage, he is swallowed whole by the monster. Wanxiang becomes deeply distressed, predicting a likely level drop by at least 3 levels. But suddenly, the enormous monster begins screaming in pain, prompting the system to ask what's happening. From its cries, beams of light emerge from various parts of the dragon's body until it explodes into pieces. From the middle of the guts and remains, Hao Han emerges victorious and grateful to the armor for saving his life once again. From the dragon, the hero receives items that can be used to repair the armor, and now his status is much higher as he has reached level 8. This time, the system congratulates the boy for being the first, but since the armor's durability is at 1%, it suggests discarding it. For the hero, the item was the reason for his success for so long, so he refuses to abandon it. Because of this, Hao Han instructs the system to use all the dragon's items to repair and enchant the armor. With that, the upgrade begins and a beam of energy descends from the sky around the armor, evolving it into an SS rank item. Now is the Sacred Blue Dragon armor, featuring the abilities True Dragon Golden Body and Skyfire Dragon Breath. As a Saint-level treasure with only 99 in the world, Wanxiang comments that Hao Han has become very powerful. Now our hero believes it's time to return and deal with the Abyss Lord's problem. At the Special Service Building, Xianyao asks why they are hiding there. Lin explains that Hao Han asked her to protect Xianyao, and that this is the only place with some level of power. In response, Jin questions if she's being underestimated since she could destroy the entire place on her own, and Ren agrees that they should help. However, Lin trusts that the hero will be fine with the system, and now the Special Service is nearby, equipped with special weapons. But just as expected, the department headquarters is attacked. Quickly, some soldiers intercept the threat. Tang tries to convince them that dying for such a low salary isn't worth it. However, the soldiers don't give in to his attempt to make them switch sides and open fire. Unfortunately, their attack is ineffective due to a subordinate with a shield ability. In this case, the ex-policeman gives up and orders his men to kill everyone. At the moment when a bald subordinate with the ability to enlarge body parts is about to attack, an ultrasonic wave knocks everyone unconscious. The one responsible for this, of course, is Bao, as she knew that no defense could withstand such an attack. In this situation, Tang becomes extremely irritated at the alliance formed to defeat him. In the room where the girls are hiding, they celebrate the victory. However, Lin knows it's not over because the Abyss Lord hasn't appeared yet. With the ambush set, Tang announces that it's his turn to act. Quickly, Lin shouts into the walkie-talkie for everyone to look at the sky. As the scientists realize, they can already see the Demon King above them. He begins attacking mercilessly, destroying various parts of the department building. But Jin refuses to sit idly by, and to avenge her man, she charges forward, slashing the Abyss Lord. It's a direct frontal strike, and Ren gets emotional, believing they've won. Unfortunately, the attack only causes a superficial cut, and the one who suffers the most damage is Jin's sword. While mocking his opponent, Xianyao appeared stealthily and managed to stab him. But she was quickly suppressed, and upon realizing it was the woman who fled the engagement, the Abyss Lord declared he would kill her first and then return to destroy her people. After all, seeing others suffer was his only source of pleasure, which made Xianyao cry. Thus, the girl began to lose hope and fade into the void of death. But at that moment, Hao Han appeared, punching the Abyss Lord in the face and sending him flying far away. Tang was in utter despair, unable to believe what he was seeing. Meanwhile, the girls felt more relieved than ever, and Jin remarked that the hero really knows how to make a grand entrance. Lying on the ground, the Demon King questioned how the protagonist was still alive. Then, holding Xianyao in his arms, Hao Han declared that they didn't want him in hell, so he came back to destroy the Lord's kind. What impressed Tang the most was the boy's new ability to fly. However, the system scolded Hao Han, reminding him that the talisman he was using would run out in 1 minute, which left him in disbelief. The Demon Lord, irritated by all the chatter, launched a burst of energy. As he was protecting Xianyao, the hero struggled to dodge. However, the beam continued to chase him. Bao shouted for Hao Han to pay attention, and fortunately, he realized that the attack was homing. But before he could flee, his feet were bound by the steel vine's ability of one of Tang's subordinates. Naturally, the attack hit, causing an explosion in the building next to the department. The Abyss Lord was pleased to have finally killed the nuisance, though he thought the punishment was too quick. Tang praised his subordinate's contribution, and the latter humbly thanked him. But behind them, Hao Han remarked that it was a close call. Turning around, the two were shocked to see him, and the hero explained that since he couldn't break free, he simply buried himself. Seeing this, Tang's bald subordinates rushed to help their boss, but now Xianjiao retaliated as they were no match for her. Not only her, but also Ren and Jin returned to the battle, taking advantage of the situation. Tang then shouted for the Lord to deal with the women first, prompting the Demon King to attack them from a distance again. But Hao Han appeared to defend them, successfully deflecting the attack with his equipment. The Demon King couldn't believe his strike was reflected. Since the hero hadn't had the chance to test his new weapon previously, he figured now was the perfect moment. On the other hand, Tang grew increasingly anxious, unable to comprehend how the boy had grown so strong since their last encounter. To finish the protagonist once and for all, the Demon King prepared his strongest attack. In response, the hero unleashed a burst of energy from his lightning sword. The Abyss Lord mocked him, saying that such a weak strike wouldn't stop him. However, the burst not only reflected but also almost hit the Demon King directly. He narrowly survived, but Hao Han quickly reappeared in front of him, ready to strike again. Before that, the Lord demanded the boy stop bluffing, claiming that since he had absorbed the sword's energy, it could no longer cut him. But the hero stated he didn't need any enchantments to cause damage and explained that the lightning energy wasn't absorbed. It had merely dissipated momentarily and was now back at 100% power, proving the Lord wrong. During his 800 years of life, the Demon King had faced many powerful enemies but had never encountered anyone like Hao Han. In the end, all the lightning energy was concentrated, and with a massive explosion, the king was incinerated. However, the hero noticed that the monster's interior was hollow, like a cicada's shell. This was because the Lord had used a reincarnation technique that brought him back to life, but downgraded him to level 8 as a trade-off. The hero, disappointed, commented that he had expected the king to be a powerful boss, but saw that wasn't the case. Still, the Lord was determined to win and asked Tang to join him in an attack. However, he was stabbed in the back by his partner, shocking everyone. Since the Demon King had proven useless, the former officer decided to kill him to grow stronger. Before dying, the Lord cast a curse, saying the boy would meet a terrible death. Regardless, Tang thanked Hao Han, admitting that without his help, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the Demon King. But considering that the ex-policeman was capable of killing his own companion, he was the true Demon King. Without further conversation, Tang declares that they will settle things today and that he will send Hao Han to hell. The system advises the hero to be cautious because the enemy has at least 2 S-grade items and 3 AAA grade items. By activating the Kirin arm, strength is increased by 300 and critical hits gain an additional 30 points. Additionally, the exclusive boots of power are equipped, granting 90 strength and 20 speed. Next, the spirit-repelling chainmail and crimson cloud agile armor are also deployed, along with the Phoenix's mental power helmet and the gloves of forgiveness, which reduce the opponent's attack and speed by 50. Finally, Tang equips the divine legendary two-edged sword, the most powerful armor-penetrating weapon in history. It can bypass any defense, and with all this gear, Tang begins to boast and claim victory. Suddenly, a grenade appears in front of the ex-policeman and explodes, causing massive destruction. The hero is thrilled that modern weapons are still not entirely ineffective and sacrifices a few more crates to launch another attack. Despite being hit directly, Tang survives with some injuries. However, the protagonist notices that the ex-policeman seems less agile with so much equipment. This observation proves true as Tang realizes he lacks both attack and defense, having completely overlooked speed. Wasting no time, the hero charges forward for a stab, but Tang's helmet closes, blocking the strike. Tang laughs and mocks Hao Han, claiming he can't penetrate his defense. But the hero merely asks if the ex-policeman is unaware that metal conducts electricity. Hao Han discharges the power of his sword into Tang, but a passive ability activates, reflecting the attack back with even greater force. For a moment, Hao Han forgets about his enemy's armor's passive ability, but narrowly escapes harm. Tang, on the other hand, is completely exhausted, and as he begins removing his armor, the hero mocks him for giving up. Yet the villain persists, vowing to kill the protagonist and become the one to dominate the world. Obviously, Lin begins to see this as the delusional ramblings of someone with no hope left. At that moment, she notices a group of people in the building next door. Unexpectedly, all these people are copies of Tang's Sayo, each equipped with weapons. Faced with so many Tangs in front of him, the hero can hardly believe what he's seeing. Wanxing believes the ex-policeman possesses the SS-grade item called the Resurrection Coffin. Its holder can create infinite copies of themselves and achieve immortality, prompting Tang to declare that today will be the day Hao Han dies. As the clones approach, the hero asks the system to bring him the most useful card. One of the clones advances, claiming he won't give Hao Han a chance to defend himself. But Jin intercepts him, declaring that she won't give the villain any chance either. Fortunately, the protagonist receives the secret martial arts book of Tai Su. The boy begins absorbing its contents and within moments gives a 50% understanding. Seconds later, the clones attack with full force, but the martial arts comprehension reaches 100%. A powerful explosion occurs, launching all the clones away and defeating them. Tang tries to motivate his clones, saying the hero won't be able to unleash such power again. Hao Han advances with his new techniques, leaving the ex-policeman stunned by the hero's sudden advantage. Luckily for the villain, more clones appear to reinforce the attack line. Tang shouts at them, calling them idiots and ordering them to strike outside the hero's field of vision. Following the new command, the clones attempt to attack from behind, but Hao Han uses a spinning sword technique, defeating them all. Finally, only the real Tang remains for the hero to face, leaving the ex-policeman furious. The resurrection coffin quickly produces even more clones, but Hao Han confidently states that he has already identified 3 weaknesses in it. Tang interprets this as sheer arrogance, believing the boy is boasting merely because he managed to kill a few copies. The first weakness is that the coffin cannot truly resurrect, it can only copy, which is why Tang avoids exposing himself on the front line. The second weakness is that the clones are copies of Tang before his death, meaning they are all level 6. And the third is that the more clones the hero defeats, the more XP he gains. Moreover, judging by Tang's expression, all the speculations are correct. With just a few exchanges of blows, Hao Han is able to understand a lot, which makes Lin think of him as a true warrior. However, she doesn't understand why this is being exposed, as it will certainly benefit Tang. Back in the fight, Hao Han encourages them to continue because he will soon reach level 15. Faced with this disadvantage, Tang once again does the unthinkable and kills 2 of his own clones. He then politely asks his clones to sacrifice themselves to make him stronger, but since they are practically perfect copies, none of them want to give up their lives so easily. Regardless, Tang advances, killing as many as he can without caring about their consent. Hao Han also joins the fray, turning it into a competition to see who levels up faster. Lin once again feels proud, as the plan was to let Tang know about the clones so they could divide the workload and quickly turn it into a one-on-one fight. After all the carnage, the ex-policeman mocks Tang none of the clones compares to him. Now he can finally celebrate his efforts because he has reached level 10. However, at this moment, Hao Han cleans his sword and reveals that Tang's chances would have been higher if he had fought alongside the clones. Realizing he had been manipulated into making such a mistake, the ex-policeman panics. For the hero, Tang can now use anything he has because after this, it will be too late to save himself. Sweating cold, the ex-policeman tries to come up with a plan relying on his intelligence. Tang then points to the side, claiming to see something interesting. At the moment Hao Han turns, Tang attempts a fatal surprise attack. But obviously, such a lousy plan doesn't work because the hero manages to catch the sword by its tip. Tang quickly realizes the difference in levels and Hao Han breaks the sword, calling him a rookie. In a last attempt to win, Tang provokes the boy, challenging him to an armed fight. But Hao Han doesn't back down as he now has no disadvantage in combat techniques. Though slightly concerned about the hero's fighting stance, the ex-policeman advances, trusting his military training. A powerful exchange of blows between the two begins quickly, but the protagonist emerges victorious. Once again, Tang notices the difference in strength, but as long as the resurrection coffin is there, a clone will come to avenge him. However, the hero comments that if the coffin is activated, it will definitely produce some energy fluctuations. That's when Tang realizes Hao Han has been waiting for this opportunity to locate it. Bao, who was working on it, promptly informs them that a fluctuation was detected in the southeast of the city at the warehouse. Quickly, Hao Han departs, leaving Tang behind, who only has time to curse the blonde before dying. At that very moment in the warehouse, the ex-policeman wakes up startled, commenting that he'll win next time. But within seconds, a beam of energy pierces the warehouse roof, striking Tang in the chest because Hao Han's already there. To save his life, Tang begins to grovel, saying he'll do whatever it takes for his big brother. However, Hao Han unleashes another lightning attack on him, giving no chance for negotiation. After burning Tang alive, the hero tells him to find him in another life. Later, the news reports that Tang, the leader of the bandits, was killed but refused to identify the responsible party. Lin, on the other hand, finds it strange that the kidnapped professor is still missing, and that there are no traces of the dimensional breaking equipment. Because of this, the hero asks if she believes Tang had accomplices, and since it's not impossible, she says they will continue investigating. Furthermore, the city recommended that the boy register for the provincial super elite competition next month, but just thinking about exhausting himself preparing, Hao Han declines as he is finally at peace. In this case, Lin says she'll contact the organizer to inform him that the hero isn't interested in the 30 million prize being offered. Naturally, Hao Han suddenly stood up, prompting the girl to ask if he had changed his mind. With money on the line, even the hero's personality changed, and he said he hated doing nothing and would go even if there wasn't a reward. Thus, Liu says goodbye to complete the registration and wishes the boy a good rest. Minutes later, Hao Han walks around the house already thinking about everything he could do with 30 million in hand. However, something unexpected happens when our hero returns to the bedroom. There, the girl from the Thieves clan is waiting, wanting some attention from her master. A little startled, Hao Han asks how the girl managed to get in. Embarrassed, she comments on the hero's victory against the Abyss Lord, who was a great danger. Because of this, she quickly shuts the door and hugs Hao Han from behind, saying she wants to help her master relax. For now, Xianjiu says she belongs entirely to the boy and that he can do whatever he wants with her. In response, the protagonist questions what she said earlier about only doing these things after marriage. But Xianjiu replies that such things are just formalities they can address later while searching for the doll. Remembering the consequences of getting involved with an NPC, Hao Han pushes her away, saying he hasn't done anything significant. He explains there's no need for her to sacrifice herself to reward him and suggests she simply return to her family. Xianjiu then asks if the boy really plans to discard her after using her. However, the protagonist denies taking advantage of her since they aren't even married yet. Realizing she won't win the argument, the girl disappears and uses her skills to steal Hao Han's pants. Next, she takes his jacket and shirt, leaving our hero in only his underwear. Xianjiu then pushes him onto the bed. Climbing on top of her future husband, she declares that she won't accept any more excuses and will definitely make it happen. Terrified, the hero asks if she also plans to kill him after harvesting him. Unexpectedly, she replies that she would never kill her husband and that if anyone disrespected him, she would be the first to face them. Hao Han realizes that her goal was never to take his essence, but to defeat the Demon Lord. Believing that meeting her expectations could provide him with an excellent companion to protect him from others, he decides to give in. Without holding back, a cassava root grows and Xianjiu feels it pressing against her. To her, it feels like something even bigger than Mount Tai is falling on her. Though it hurts, Xianjiu finds it oddly comforting, but over time she can't withstand the hero's staff and asks for a break. Hao Han refuses, saying they're just getting started and knowing she secretly loves it. After a long night of intense activity, the protagonist wakes up wondering where the girl went so early. In any case, it was a very relaxing experience for the hero, as he could do what he wanted without the system's interference. But then he notices Ren and Jin standing in front of him, staring. Hao Han yells that he's now a level 14 boss and can't be forced by anyone. Ren, however, informs him that the system revealed his abilities were sealed during the safe period. Terrified, Hao Han screams for Xianjiu to come save him. To his surprise or misfortune, it was Xianjiu herself who called the two over, claiming the boy was very naughty the previous night. The girls agreed that those most capable of enduring should be the ones to harvest him, and so began a certain game between the three of them that lasted the entire night. The next day at the department, Lin asks if the hero hasn't been sleeping well. Not wanting to discuss the matter, the protagonist simply asks why he's there. Without wasting time, Lin hands him an envelope with information about an upcoming elite competition. At his current level, the hero doesn't understand why she bothered to gather this information. However, Lin believes the boy is being overly optimistic and advises him to lose the competition. As he begins reading the document, the protagonist asks how such a thing is possible. A total of 35 players from around the world are participating in the competition, and Hao Han's rank is only 11, despite being in third place yesterday. This means that most competitors have mastered a method for leveling up quickly. This includes all the top 100 players in the province, but according to certain informants, 21 people mysteriously disappeared 2 days ago. For the hero, this suggests that many expert players have already discovered a method of leveling up by killing each other in the game. Lin says their desire for victory surpasses any sense of reason, which is precisely why the department recommends a defeat for Hao Han. However, the hero thinks giving up is even better than losing because he doesn't want to risk his life again. In this case, Lin informs him that she will report to the province, and since the city will remain calm for a while, Hao Han can take a break. Later, the hero asks about the progress in fixing the game's bugs, and since it's still in its early stages, Wang Xing suggests it should be done more frequently each day. But Hao Han lacks the energy to work that hard daily. Therefore, the system resolves the issue by offering the hero a magical oil with special properties, which irritates him. Suddenly, a man wearing glasses attacks the protagonist with a magical ability, prompting Hao Han to ask who he is. For Gao Min, a level 16 rank 9 competitor from the province, it's impressive that Tamin City's #1 was able to evade his attack. At this point, Hao Han finally understands that this is a competitor trying to kill him to level up. Explaining that all the masters from his city have already been killed, Gao Min confirms his intent, saying he wants to reach level 18. Obviously, the hero thinks these people are insane to be killing each other like this, making it clear he won't be able to avoid the conflict. However, when looking at his opponent's weapon, the hero can't understand how it has so much power despite being so simple. Without wasting more time, Gao Min charges forward, intending to send him to hell. Our hero summons his sword and manages to defend himself, but the clash of their attacks causes significant destruction. Clearly, something strange is happening because an ordinary weapon should have broken, yet the club remains intact. As Gao Min retreats, he seems slightly impressed by the hero's thunder-enchanted sword. Taking the initiative to attack, Hao Han warns that the Four Eyes doesn't know much about him. Activating the club's speed mode, Gao-min changes his weapon's effect and starts running rapidly around the boy. He tells the protagonist to give up because he won't be able to keep up with his speed. Gao-min taunts him, saying he should quickly become the first stone in his mountain of stones. Until now, no one has survived his purple myriad, Red Death 1000, but Hao-han activates his legendary armor to defend himself. With it, the attack is easily deflected, leaving Gao-min in despair. Now the hero quickly gains the upper hand, locating the boy among the illusions, but Gao-min escapes. Gao-min's plan is now to retreat and come up with a better strategy, and he feels confident since no one can match his speed. This proves to be his mistake because Hao-han, equipped with all this gear, is extremely fast. With a punch to the boy's face, the protagonist declares that Gao-min isn't the only one who can prove his abilities. Hao-han then concludes by saying that Gao-min, unfortunately, chose the wrong opponent to hunt. Later, Lin interrupts the paramedics to check the criminal's identity, but after the severe beating, it's said that not even his own mother would recognize him. Lin comments that even if his life is saved, he will undoubtedly be left disabled. Looking to the side, Lin notices Hao-han looking downcast and tells him she will arrange for more security. However, considering this recent attack, Hao-han changes his mind and decides to participate in the competition to face the challenges head-on. In this case, Lin asks if he's sure, as it will be an irreversible decision. But Hao-han doesn't want to talk about it because he realized Gao-min had other objectives besides killing him. The boy says no further thought is needed, so Lin tells him she'll secure his spot and provide the regulations for him to review. To return, Lin offers to arrange a police car, but Hao-han declines, confident that no one will dare cause trouble for now. In the sky, a drone observes everything and reports to the mad scientist from before, who realizes the hero has something that makes him more than just an amateur. A mysterious man then asks the scientist if he thinks the boy still has any tricks up his sleeve. Believing so, Zhang suggests avoiding him as much as possible to avoid complications. Even Gao-min was completely defeated by him, so the man believes they should first try to recruit him, and if no understanding is reached, they will use force. Thus, the man summons a piece from the Azure Dragon's set, the sacred blade of the Azure Dragon, and now he declares that he needs to obtain the Blue Dragon armor and its matching gloves. At nightfall, Lin informs everyone that the organization committee has finally released the event rules. The official start date is 3 days from now, and the delay indicates that the organizers are also wary of the troublemakers. According to the data, Jin comments that the hero will have to play more than one match. Since there's no information about the opponents, Ren is frustrated that they can't prepare in advance. Xianjiao, however, suggests simplifying things by stealing the data if she can locate the source. But Lin clearly disagrees that this is the best approach, so Hao-han decides to return to the main task at hand. The notification requires all participants to be present the following morning, and once the competition begins, no one will dare make suspicious moves. However, despite this being true, the competition will take place in Puying City, 4 municipalities away, so Lin knows they can't let their guard down. In response, Jin says that anyone who tries to mess with Hao-han will face her swords, and both Ren and Xianjiao volunteer to go as well. At that moment, the house doorbell rings, putting everyone on high alert. Lin quickly asks the security troops via radio who is at the door, but when she receives no response, she suspects the radio might be cut off. The hero disagrees, thinking it's far easier for his enemies to fight than to devise elaborate plans. Determined to see for himself, the protagonist goes to greet the visitor. At the door stands Kinyan Province's rank 8, claiming to have come on behalf of his master to visit the boy. This immediately brings all the girls together, thinking the clown is there to attack just like the last one. To clarify, the ranker explains that he's only there to deliver a message from his master. When asked who this master is, the clown states that it's the current number 1 known as X. It's said that X's identity is a mystery, and even his exact level is unclear, but on the official ranking, he holds the top spot. In this case, the hero gets straight to the point, asking what the master wants with him. The clown explains that Mr. X is a man who admires talent and wants the boy to become his apprentice. To form an alliance, Hao-han must kneel before the letter, officially becoming the master's most trusted right-hand man. Naturally, the hero asks again if he really has to kneel, and the clown confirms it. In response, Hao-han simply shuts the door in the ranker's face. Infuriated, the ranker starts ringing the doorbell non-stop, shouting that if the boy has the guts to compete, he should have the guts to open the door. At that moment, a bucket of cold water suddenly falls on the clown's head. From the second floor, Hao-han boldly remarks that it's good to throw out water after wetting your feet. He adds that if the clown doesn't leave now, the next bucket will be boiling water. Enraged, the ranker declares that if it's a fight the hero wants, it's a fight he'll get. Lin warns that the clown managed to silence 2 security teams on his own, questioning if the hero isn't afraid of retaliation. The protagonist isn't entirely sure if the ranker will act, but since the event rules are clear, he knows the ranker can attack personally. Lin becomes even angrier at Mr. X's arrogance for provoking them by sending 2 subordinates. Switching topics, Hao-han asks about Gao-min's condition, and Lin reports that he's still in critical condition. Hao-han then asks her to do him a favor. Later, the clown, now without makeup, complains to his boss about the hero's arrogance and asks for permission to do something about it. However, his master explains that acting rashly would backfire, as the organizing committee is monitoring everything. Still, the ranker insists on his request, promising to leave no evidence when he's done with Hao Han. Regardless, the master reminds him that the competition starts in 2 days and orders him to return soon. Back at the lab, Zhang asks how the clown plans to kill the boy with so many teams watching. Wisely, X clarifies that he never ordered the ranker to do so, only reminding him to return early. Faced with this, the professor understands that even if the mission fails, the boss will be able to prove that the assassination attempt is not connected to him. Continuing, X remarks that the clown will have a small chance of winning, which prompts Zhang to question why he's letting him go without being confident in victory. In this case, the boss explains that he doesn't want to make Hao Han his enemy, so making him miss the competition seems like a good solution. Later, Lin says goodbye since she'll have to stay behind and won't be able to accompany the group. Additionally, she informs them that Bao will visit Hao Han soon, but the hero says he'll manage on his own. It's said that the agency provided 3 vehicles and 5 guards to handle normal incidents. However, due to the possibility of interference from Mr. X, the girls from the other world will also be going, which worries Lin even more. Without further ado, the protagonist gets into the car and everyone departs for the competition. Watching everything from another car, someone tells his young master that the target is on the move, prompting the other to order them to follow discreetly. During the trip, Hao Han finds it strange that they're taking a different road when the entire route is on the highway, but the driver claims it's a shortcut. Because of this, the hero questions whether the officer thinks he's incapable of using a mobile map to see they're going the wrong way. With his plans exposed, the officer's expression begins to change. Holding a trigger in his hand, the man says this is his retaliation for the water bucket incident from the previous day. He then presses the device, blowing the car into pieces and setting it ablaze. Despite this, our hero manages to save himself, but with his car destroyed, it will be difficult to reach the event. However, there's an even bigger problem because the clown himself is there to take revenge. After revealing himself in combat, the ranker activates his Hunter's Gaze ability, which freezes the equipment of his enemies. As a result, a message appears for the hero, stating that players with the frozen status cannot use their equipment until the restriction is lifted. This leaves him very worried since he can't use his armor. With his clown gauntlet, the ranker now deals significant damage to the unprotected Hao Han. As he's thrown far away, the girls scream the hero's name. The clown declares that the punch is payback for the water bucket and that he'll toy with Hao Han until he kills him. Quickly, the girls come to the protagonist's aid, and when asked, the hero admits he can't summon his armor. Because of this, he decides to ask the system how the clown can freeze his equipment. Desperate, Wang Xian explains that every title has a special ability, and she didn't expect players who hadn't faced dungeons to have such powers. Thus, the protagonist asks what enhancement his Dragon Slayer title provides. To his misfortune, it's a 2-fold increase in damage during battles against dragons. At that moment, the clown throws his cards, saying there's no time for conversation now. Quickly, the protagonist tells Jin to get out of the way, but she effortlessly deflects the attacks, showing she has nothing to worry about. Alongside her, Xianjiao and Ren also rise to help, determined to protect their man. For the first time, the protagonist experiences the pleasant feeling of being protected by someone else. Witnessing this scene, the clown shouts, praising the companions Hao Han has gathered with his wealth, adding that he'll take good care of them after Hao Han's death. The mere insinuation that they were bought infuriates Jin, who charges into the fight. Before her attack lands, the ranker reactivates his equipment freezing ability. But the freezing fails because this ability doesn't work against NPCs. Before he can process that he's dealing with an NPC, he's forced to dodge rapidly. Even though he survives, part of his hair is cut off by Jin's attack. Then, a giant fire meteor crashes down, causing a massive explosion upon hitting the ground. This time, the clown is hit directly, and the one responsible is Ren, who says it's the price for acting so arrogantly. In response, the ranker calls Ren a vile woman and announces that he'll use his special weapon, the Clown King's bomb. It's said that a single touch is enough to kill everyone without leaving a trace. But when he checks, the trigger is no longer on his belt. Because Xianjiao hadn't been idle during all this time, even though she initially thought it was just a wallet. The clown grows increasingly furious and shouts at the girl to fight fairly. Unexpectedly, Xianjiao hands the item back to him, saying she doesn't need such a useless bomb. This confuses him a bit, but he remarks that Xianjiao is a good person. However, the girl explains that a thief never leaves empty-handed and decided to take a small piece of the item. That small piece was the grenade pin, which caused the bomb to explode in the clown's hand. The explosion leaves the protagonist surprised at how easily everything was resolved. But standing before him are 3 powerful warriors with combat experience. With no further issues, Jin suggests they keep moving, but Hao Han notes that without a car, they likely won't make it on time. At that moment, when a car is most needed, Cao Tedi shows up, yelling that he's here to help. Stopping the car, the boy steps out holding an M401 and asks where the enemy is, though fortunately for him, the matter is already resolved. Regardless, the hero asks why Cao is there, and Cao recalls that Hao Han saved his life, leaving him with a huge debt to repay. The protagonist explains that there are no more enemies, but he still needs help with another problem. With that, all four of them pile into the car a bit tightly, and Han asks if Kao is sure they'll make it on time. Kao confidently says yes, though he's bleeding from his nose due to the scene. The trip continues, and Ren asks the driver to slow down because hitting bumps is painful. Meanwhile, despite the explosion, the clown survives and vows to report everything to his boss, noting that Han's identity is anything but simple. In Dongming province, at the local elite competition, everyone gets out of the car, and Kao finds it strange that the event is in the mountains rather than the city. The hero explains that the organizers aren't stupid, as bringing so many unstable people together could cause problems in the city. Without further delay, they head to the event. Upon arrival, the hero states his name and representation, and an official shows him where to sign. Before anything else, Han asks if the people accompanying him need to wait outside, but the staff member shows indifference. So everyone goes in together, and the hero remarks that the event seems unprofessional, a sentiment Kao agrees with. When they reach the event's central organization area, they see many people gathered. All of them seem like the type who won't be easily defeated. At that moment, someone starts to appear, leading everyone to think the event is about to begin. At the top of the stage, the competition manager, Director Chen, welcomes all the young talents. He expresses satisfaction at seeing 89 competitors and confidently states they will form a Dongming representative team for the national competition. However, one boy arrogantly comments that listening to these officials talk is like listening to farts. This obviously angers the director, but the boy insists on repeating the insult. In an unmerciful act, one of Chen's colleagues shoots the boy in the head, killing him instantly. Returning to his point, Chen warns everyone to stay quiet while he's speaking to avoid further fatalities. Now, Han understands what this monitoring team really is: trained ability users. Continuing, the director explains that the competition will be divided into two stages, the first being survival and the second a free-for-all. He promises to introduce the specific rules in detail before each stage begins, but for now, everyone can head to their rooms to rest. This leaves the protagonist a bit confused by such a short announcement that reveals nothing substantial. Others share the same sentiment, with some finding it unnecessary to have arrived so early. A guard asks the director if he mentioned the restrictions before they leave. However, Chen doesn't care at the moment about what the participants will do since there are still too many of them. He says he'll start imposing control once the number of participants is reduced to around 50. Chen remarks that horses are judged by their spirit, not their numbers, so only after testing them will they choose the most useful ones. Later, the protagonist arrives at his room, and the girls are excited by how comfortable it is. Han asks if all the rooms are like this, and Kao replies that it's probably customized just for him. Jin begins removing her socks and calls Han to come to her. Adding to that, Xianio flirts, saying the hero must be tired from the trip, while Ren chimes in, urging him to relax. As the protagonist starts preparing for what's to come, Kao declares he'll crouch down and watch. But unsurprisingly, none of the three agree with such a ridiculous idea. Frightened, Kao apologizes, retreats to the car, and wishes everyone a good rest. However, as he walks down the hallway, he can't help but loudly express his jealousy. A blonde man finds it amusing that some people are treating this evening as just another normal night of rest. This is because not only he, but several others, are preparing for the hunt that begins now. In one of the rooms provided for the event, while a boy sleeps, a shadow appears in front of his bed. The moment he wakes up, he's taken out instantly, along with his entire apartment, which bursts into flames. In the hero's room, Han is doing what any man might do, while Jin stands praying with her hands raised. The other two girls urge Jin, saying they're already rested and ready to get back to work. However, at that moment, Han notices something is wrong because he distinctly hears screams outside. Seconds later, someone shouts for everyone to evacuate, warning that a competitor has set the building on fire and is killing others. This enrages Jin, as she was just about to finish her prayer. In response, the other girls quickly get dressed to leave the building. But all Han does is ask for silence, leaving the three confused. As they delay, the person outside shouts that if no one comes out, he'll simply flee with the others. Losing patience, this person begins shooting wildly at the door. After breaking it down, the bald assassin is thrilled to increase his score again. But he soon realizes he hasn't gained any experience points, which might indicate his target is still alive. While the hero clings to the ceiling, the bald man tries to lure his opponent out, promising a quick death. However, when he spots where his target is, it's too late. Han descends, punching the bald man's face. Jin asks if this is an assassin sent by the event's organizers. The hero replies that it's not because he saw the man earlier and confirmed he was a participant. It seems the organizers intentionally want competitors to kill each other before the event even begins. Xianio, however, doesn't understand why, given that combat was previously forbidden, and now they're thrown into a battle royale. The hero explains that private fights are different from those monitored by the supervisors. Now they can observe every performance, prompting the protagonist to destroy the camera watching him. This shocks the guard, but the director finds it an interesting move. Ken, the director, gets straight to the point, asking about the situation. A subordinate informs him that after 12 minutes of fighting, there are 74 survivors. In this case, the director deduces that the competitors are smart, as only 14 have died despite so many traps being set. Regardless, he says he'll take a nap and wants to be woken up when there are only 50 people left. Returning to the hero's perspective, Jin asks why Hao Han is running, and he says he won't just stand still. Ren then asks if they'll join the chaotic battle too, but the protagonist responds no, as that would be doing exactly what the commission wants. Instead, he plans to go after the manipulators to show who's really in charge. In another hallway, a somewhat pathetic fight unfolds, with two men pulling each other's hair. The hero steps in to help, making them knock their heads together and collapse unconscious on the floor. Entering a new area, a guard wonders what the protagonist is trying to do. Since Hao Han isn't engaging in any fights and is merely descending the stairs, it looks like he's trying to escape. In this case, the director remarks that there's no reason to keep someone who refuses to comply. Shen assigns the guard, Lang, to handle the problem and eliminate him. Observing that Hao Han is only level 16, the guard assumes it won't be an issue. In this case, the employee speaks through the communicator, saying he is giving an order to Lang. The order is to go to the East Staircase 3 and ambush the competitor and his 3 companions on the 4th floor, which is intercepted by the ladder. While going down the stairs, Hao Han comments, slightly relieved that Keo was in the car instead of there. But before he could continue the conversation, a spike grew beneath the boy. And at the moment he approached the girl's collection point, they were all in shock. Fortunately, before hitting the golden eggs, our hero activates his armor and manages to dodge. However, he still crashes into the ceiling and falls to the ground slightly injured. Faced with this, the girls asked if the armor was still functional, and the hero explained that he was saved by the automatic danger sensor in his armor. In response, Jin yells, demanding whoever is hiding to come out of the bush. Unfortunately, the person does appear, and with a move that surprises them all, immobilizes Jin by the neck. Among the 3, the most surprised is the hero, as this person is able to defeat Jin in an instant. Using his wit, the hero declares that she is not a competitor, and that if the man wants something, he should face him. However, Lang not only ignores him, but also throws the girl into the air, preparing an attack to cut her in half. At this moment, the girls become desperate, but Hao Han dashes at high speed, managing to stop the attack before the worst happens. Fortunately, Jin falls into the arms of the other 2 girls. Lang in turn comments that a weapon with built-in lightning power is quite interesting. However, as a fully charged attack from his sword only made the man step back a few paces, Hao Han trembled in fear. And obviously, Lang knew that a blow with such magical power couldn't be used frequently. Because of this, he readies his stance to charge again. Hao Han attacks with all his might, but after a brief exchange of blows between the 2, the protagonist's sword begins to show some cracks. And after one more strike, it completely shatters, throwing the boy backward. At this point, Shang Yo starts to lose hope because the boy's weapon can no longer deal damage. Lang wastes no time and attacks once again, already wishing for Hao Han to die in peace. However, at the moment of the attack, something begins to glow on the protagonist's armor, startling the boy. This is because at the most critical moment, the true golden dragon body was activated. Back in the monitoring room, the director is asleep until he hears a noise and wakes up in a panic. He asks what happened, and one of the employees reports that there is something above them. The director comments that the others are very inexperienced and have never seen the real world before. But when he looks at the sky, the image before him makes even this mature man drop his jaw. The green dragon, in turn, is merely a projection of the hero's energy, which was enough to defeat Lang. While still conscious, the boy wonders what kind of equipment this is, and he asks the hero, who now has an overwhelming aura, how he can be so powerful. Hao Han, on the other hand, simply experiences what it's like to have a passive skill and realizes it's not bad at all. Both Shangio and Ren become extremely excited about how cool their man looks, and the aura emanating from the protagonist doesn't stop, reaching even Mr. X's floor. He interprets this power as coming from the armor, which only makes him more determined to seize this piece of the set for himself. Back to the protagonist, he comments that most competitors don't use these stairs and asks about the reason for the ambush. The boy explains that his instructions were to eliminate the hero and that he didn't expect him to be harder to deal with than the other 12. Hao Han questions whether Lang is saying that he has already killed 12 competitors and asks if his boss is Mr. X. However, the man says he knows nothing, and that if the hero wants an answer, he will have to defeat him. Thus, he charges forward. But at the moment of the attack, Hao Han's chest glows again and another dragon is summoned. This time, Lang is left on the ground for good, unable to cause any more trouble. With this, the protagonist levels up and the girls inform him that Jin is already awake, though still weak. At this moment, the hero thinks he needs to stop this chaos, but a plan needs to be devised because if he leaves the building, the organization will send assassins. After thinking for a while, Hao Han has a crazy idea and tells the girls to go to the hole in the wall. Skyo asks what the boy is going to do, and with great confidence, he says he will put an end to this farce. Back in the command room, an employee serves the director a cup of tea. Chen, in turn, asks if Lang was really defeated, and one of his employees confirms it. In any case, the access door is sealed, and since the boy will remain in the building, he will have no choice but to play the game of hunters and prey. Moreover, their goal is exactly to reduce the number of competitors, so the employees clap, saying the director is a genius. However, upon looking out the window, Chen witnesses an explosion and becomes desperate once again. This is because the building is completely compromised as someone destroyed the support wall. Minutes later, the hero realizes it was as expected because the super surveillance team appears. This shows that everyone was watching and that the events of this night were planned by the committee. Other competitors wonder what to do and, lacking information, believe they shouldn't fight in front of the organizers. Thus, the lingering question is, which idiot destroyed the building's support pillar? And for the person who did it, the director shouts for them to step forward. Then our hero steps up without any fear, saying he did it to evacuate the non-combatants. In this case, the director gets angry and warns that the boy just got himself into big trouble. This is because the competition was supposed to take place in the dormitory basement, and if the building collapses, the event can't continue. The next morning, the competitors gather at the location, glaring hostilely at the person approaching. That person was our hero, who until now had been trying to convince others that he didn't do it on purpose. In response, Jin commented that Hao Han didn't use all that strength on her, and obviously, the hero told her to stop talking. Without further delay, the director and his staff appear to kick off the competition. Upon entering, Chen immediately glares at Hao Han, who tries to avoid eye contact, and the others don't even acknowledge him. In his announcement, the director stated that fortunately the damage wasn't too severe so they can proceed. In this case, the hero commented that he was desperate and asked why the director made such a fuss over nothing. Continuing, Chen said that the damage was still significant enough to destabilize the magnetic shield, which could cause some unexpected dangers. Then the blonde competitor asked if the director could give an example. But as they have a limited understanding of the world, Chen remarked that he couldn't list all the possibilities. Therefore, the competitors begin asking what could affect the entire world and what kind of competition this is. Yet they still don't get proper answer. Originally, the details were supposed to be revealed before the first competition, but due to this unexpected situation, they decided to reveal them now. The location of the first stage where they are now used to be a tunnel almost 100 years ago. However, 3 months ago, after the first descent, abnormal creatures began appearing in the area. Immediately, the government took control and sealed off the cave. But according to the residents from inside, there are around hundreds of creatures from another world, making this the most dangerous place in the world. That said, the task now is to enter the tunnel and go to the lowest level. The competitors must find purple crystals placed by robots and bring them out safely to pass the first test. At this point, one of the competitors asks how many crystals are in the cave. Considering the possibility of losing some during the return, the director states they placed a total of 16, and only the top 8 competitors who bring back crystals will advance to the next stage. Then the hero understands that, under all conditions, having 8 people alive is already a victory. Ren adds that the place will not only have monsters but also the players themselves, making the cave dangerous. That said, a girl asks why the director claims to have limited knowledge and questions the real damage to the cave. Although the tunnel structure isn't abnormal, what the director can say is that the monsters don't come from outside but from within. In this case, the protagonist asks the system if there are any passages in the tunnel, and Wang Xing responds that it has found small holes between dimensions. For this reason, the hero scolds her for the mistake, and the system responds that it is already working on a correction. Jin, on the other hand, asks what will happen if these passages really exist. Therefore, the system explains that the hero's attack likely stimulated the hole to widen further, allowing more powerful monsters to pass through. Logically, everyone notices that Wang Xing is trying to shift the blame, which makes her very anxious to apologize. In any case, the competition must start now, but before entering, Chen reiterates that the cave is fragile and that every movement must be cautious. This makes most competitors interpret it as a veiled warning to our hero. Quickly, the entrance is open for the competitors, who must already be prepared. Everyone is equipped with bracelets that monitor their vital signs, and if anyone disappears, they will be considered dead. Thus, the director wishes the participants good luck, and Hao Han says goodbye to the girls. With a shout, Chen orders the competitors to disperse quickly because the competition will begin in 3 minutes. In response, Shangyo comments that these 3 minutes will be crucial for everyone to take positions. However, Jin believes things don't feel right and says it's likely that Hao Han will face danger from the beginning. It's said that the strength the boy displayed will make him a target, and since the cave is fragile, any defensive movement could cause everything to collapse. Thus, the most obvious plan for the competitors must be to eliminate the hero from the game first. As they close the tunnel door, an employee informs the director that the exit is sealed. In response, he says that life and death are already predetermined, meaning that from now on, everyone is left to their own luck. However, he still hopes this might bring some gratifying surprises. Inside the cave, a participant finds it strange that the walls are glowing, and another comments it might be some kind of mineral. In any case, there's still 1 minute left until the competition begins. In this case, The guy with the pompadour says goodbye, stating he will go ahead and hopes everyone will fight together instead of killing each other. However, a bald man finds it ironic since earlier the pompadour guy was only spared because of the building collapse. Regardless, the man said times had changed and that he now only wished for everyone's safety before disappearing into a portal. With that, the competition begins, and in an instant, everyone disappears. This makes one competitor think that the players are prioritizing their own safety first. However, he finds it strange that someone is still walking foolishly right in the center of attention. And this person, who the man thinks is brainless, is our hero. Without hesitation, the protagonist shouts loud enough for everyone to hear. At that moment, everyone could already see what he was capable of and how a 10-story building was nothing to him, so neither would a mine. For this reason, he warned that if anyone was foolish enough to dare attack him, he wouldn't be polite and would bury everyone together. In this case, the man from before questions whether the hero is there to compete or commit an act of terrorism. Since no one responded, Hao Han simply decided to assume everyone agreed, and this made some people think of him as very arrogant. But while everyone was still questioning what they wanted to do, our hero kept walking and noticed a strange smell. Quickly, Hao Han realizes how dense the place is and thinks he must find the level's location soon to avoid getting lost. Suddenly, the boy finds the dead body of a worker. Analyzing it, the hero believes it to be a miner who was killed by a monster. A detail on the head could indicate the cause of death. While the protagonist is pondering, a monster appears to claim another victim in its own style. But before it can successfully attack, our hero dodges. Realizing it is a large, silent creature, it becomes clear that this will be a difficult battle. At that moment, the system appears, finding it strange that a meteor beetle is there since it is a monster that lives in the forest. With that, the hero comments that it's typical for Wangxing's game to have bugs and asks for a weapon with maximum penetration. The system agrees in exchange for a few more rounds outside, and with no choice, the protagonist accepts. Thus, Hao Han takes the equipment card and prepares to kill the monster. But when he realizes it, his new weapon is nothing more than a simple gardening tool. And along with it came several other kitchen utensils that are useless for combat. In this case, the system warns that since the magnetic field of the cave is deactivated, it is experiencing some issues. However, it reassures the boy, saying that the meteor beetle can be defeated bare-handed, which the hero agrees with. But that would be the case only if there were just one instead of dozens of them appearing on the cave ceiling. Despite being a little scared, the monsters advance and the hero only has time to defend himself. Unexpectedly, the frying pan he got from the card rounds turns out to be quite powerful, so our hero wields it like a true sword to defeat all the monsters. However, one of the meteor beetles sprays an acidic liquid that destroys the frying pan completely. Subsequently, others do the same, so the protagonist activates the armor's barrier and the system advises a retreat. Nonetheless, the hero activates his blue dragon gauntlets because he refuses to leave without a fight. Meanwhile, another person runs happily, having already avoided 5 waves of monsters and 3 players. He believes that as long as he stays alert, no accidents will happen. But just as he says this, the ceiling above him breaks, causing a pile of things to fall on top of him. Among these things was our hero, who simply landed on the boy. Consequently, Hao Han leveled up and was surprised as he hadn't even noticed that he buried someone. Desperately, Wangxing screams for the boy to stop hesitating and flee immediately. But even though he's not joking, the hero comments that these monsters aren't easy. Suddenly, at the end of the tunnel, the boy spots a strange blue light and it begins to approach before his eyes. However, at the last moment before it reaches him, the boy dodges, and it turns out to be his best decision as the energy destroys all the monsters behind him. Faced with this, the protagonist comments that it was a rather irrational move. Then a girl approaches, saying she fully expected to find the king of trouble there. Wielding a long level 18 sword, Mo Yun asks if Hao Han really plans to demolish the mine. The hero replies irritably, asking not to be judged because he was running for his life. Without wasting more time, the girl attacks the protagonist with her sword. Hao Han defends himself but questions if Mo Yun intends to ignore his warning, to which the girl does not respond. She analyzes and realizes that the devastating attack is actually a passive skill of the armor that activates when the boy is in danger. Because of this, she decides to end the fight, but before leaving, tells Hao Han not to cause trouble, to which the hero replies that he never intended to. She also warns the hero to be careful, because the deeper they go, the more dangerous it becomes. In this case, the protagonist says he can't guarantee he won't accidentally activate his passive skill, sending everyone flying. The girl then asks what he means by that, and Hao Han suggests they form a partnership where they help each other. Mugyeon, however, is not very happy about acting as the boy's personal bodyguard, but Hao Han clarifies, saying it will be more of a partnership where the girl handles the easier enemies and he takes on the tougher ones. In response, Mo Yun refuses, not wanting to inconvenience the hero as he apparently believes she's so weak. At that moment, a noise is heard and the girl nervously asks what it is. Hao Han explains that it's the scream of a player, indicating there's something dangerous up ahead. The person who fell victim earlier was running and screaming for someone to appear and help before he died. However, he was sliced in half along with several others, by a massive fire dragon. One of the unlucky men who ended up there also tried to use his abilities to kill the monster, but the attack only revealed his location and prompted the dragon to attack him fiercely. In light of this, the protagonist and the girl watch, hiding behind a rock. The monster then reveals itself as a level 15 blood-winged dragon. Its roar alone is enough to make both players cover their ears in pain. In this case, the hero suggests they take another route, but the girl is determined to try. He asks if she's crazy and if she didn't see the man who was just sliced in half by the dragon. However, all she says before heading out is that her decisions are none of the hero's business. As she advances, she activates her Silent Night Reaper title, which increases attack speed by 50%. This surprises the hero as she also has a title, and the system explains that it's normal for players of this level. While the Bloodwing dragon finishes its last snack, the girl leaps to perform a stealth attack. However, the hero believes something is wrong and that she's about to get into big trouble, leaving Wangsheng confused. And his suspicion proves correct as the attack doesn't even scratch the monster's skin despite all the enhancements. Faced with this, the monster becomes deeply enraged and roars, unleashing energy blasts that destroy the girl's armor. Changing her strategy, Mo-yeon activates another title called Empress's Sixth Sense, which allows her to sense enemy attacks 1 second in advance. With this 1 second advantage, she believes she can now dodge attacks and counterattack. However, the dragon's speed ruins any planning as it almost hits Mo-yeon regardless. Seeing this, the system is impressed that the girl can keep up with the wind dragon's speed, but the hero knows it's not enough. Back to the girl's perspective, she realizes she overlooked an issue. Even knowing where to dodge, the speed difference makes it impossible. As the monster prepares another attack, Mo-yeon believes she has no chance. The dragon approaches flying and the girl closes her eyes, ready to die peacefully. However, before the attack hits her, our hero appears and blocks the blow with his gauntlet. Mo-yeon, in turn, is extremely surprised, as before her stands a man holding a dragon's head with one hand. Then Hao-han reminds her of what he said about handling the toughest enemies while she handles the easier ones. Mo-yeon doesn't take it seriously and yells that this isn't the time to act like a hero since he's not even at her level. However, that wasn't entirely true as the protagonist was easily landing blows on the monster. This is because for a dragon, his level is 34 thanks to his Dragon Slayer title, which doubles his strength against dragons. With all this performance, the girl becomes curious about how much potential this man has. Back in the fight, the dragon starts displaying some strange lines on its body. The system warns that this is a sign the monster is preparing a full power attack, meaning that even with doubled strength, defense is not enhanced. The biggest problem now is that the hero doesn't have a good weapon in hand, which will make it difficult with just one attack. Without further ado, the dragon unleashes its powerful attack, which comes at high speed, throwing both of them far away. The wind breath is unbelievably strong, and the hero has to hold onto a rock with his gauntlet to avoid being blown away. However, the danger isn't over yet, as the dragon takes advantage of this moment to attack. Fortunately, the hero manages to dodge, but now Hao-han realizes how intelligent the enemy is, avoiding direct confrontation. Using its advantages, the monster employs its speed to try to confuse the boy. The system then asks if the hero will use the same move he used against the mutant woman, but Hao-han says no. That's because it's likely the armor won't withstand an attack from such a strong opponent, and if the passive is activated, everyone will be in trouble. Meanwhile, as she tries to hold on, Mo-yeon asks what this guy is planning. But the hero knows there's only one way to solve this, so he jumps and starts attacking the wall. Mo-yeon is confused, trying to understand why he's blindly attacking, but the protagonist keeps striking relentlessly. At this point, the dragon locates the hero, and the system alerts that this strategy makes no sense. However, the hero ignores it, and the dragon approaches to attack, successfully hitting the hero and throwing him to the ground. Quickly, the system asks how the boy is doing, and he remarks impressed on the dragon's speed. Regardless, now more vulnerable, the protagonist begins to focus. Naturally, the Bloodwing dragon appears to finish him off, but this time he can retaliate. Hao-han takes the opportunity to land a precise blow on its face, and without letting it take flight again, delivers several more strikes to his body. After resting briefly, Mo-yeon gets up, but something explodes in front of her, revealing that the wind dragon has been completely defeated. With that, our hero leaves the scene saying he is very tired. But Mo-yeon was eager to know how the boy did it, and how he was able to predict the dragon's flight trajectory. The protagonist explained that he didn't discover where to attack but manipulated the monster to follow a predetermined route. Thus, the girl understood that the attacks weren't random because they created an area where attacks could only come from one side. Hao-han intentionally allowed himself to be struck to appear weak and provoke another attack. Now the hero asks again if the two of them can form a team, and Mo-yeon begins to see him as a true warrior. After thinking it over, the girl decides to accept as she has confirmed the protagonist's strength. The two shake hands, and Hao-han comments that it seems the only way out is to go deeper. However, his partner is a bit worried about what lies ahead, as monsters above level 15 might appear. The hero says it doesn't matter because if any problems arise, you can simply collapse the entire mine and escape. With that, he declares they will fight for their lives and jumps alongside the girl to the next level. This leaves the dragon's body behind on the upper level, later discovered by the blonde man from earlier. One of his partners comments that it seems they arrived too late, as someone had not only gotten there first but also defeated the guardian. Another person in the group remarks that this situation doesn't look good. The blonde man finds it fascinating that adventurers are willing to risk their lives despite the dangers. In response, the hooded man remarks that Liu Mang has a skill that can pierce through time and suggests he use it to discover who defeated the dragon. However, Liu refuses to reveal his abilities just for the convenience of others. The blonde man, judging the situation, comments that completing the mission alone is impossible, so they need to join forces. He believes that their meeting was destined and reiterates his request, saying it would benefit both sides. With more people pressing him, Liu finally agrees to do the favor for the blonde man. This, of course, irritates the hooded man because it's supposed to benefit everyone. Regardless, Liu reports that it was Hao Han who defeated the monster by setting a trap and beating it to the end. The hooded man is shocked because this guy is stealing a lot of attention. The blonde man, on the other hand, realizes that the hero will be a significant threat, so he believes they should eliminate him as soon as possible. Liu also informs them that the boy teamed up with another competitor and that the two jumped into the hole he points to. The blonde man sees this as a perfect opportunity to form an alliance and defeat him. Extending his hand, the hooded man reveals his expertise in assassination and confidently declares his abilities. Liu, under the group's pressure, also extends his hand, joining the blonde man to form the group. Meanwhile, as they proceed, the hero complains about not having eaten more the night before, prompting Mo Yun to ask if he's just tired. The protagonist clarifies that he isn't tired but very hungry. At that moment, a noise echoes through the cave and Mo Yun announces she can see two small demons. However, the hero senses something is off and suggests they hide first to assess the situation. The creatures begin wandering around, searching for something. The two hide behind a rock with a crack in the middle to observe. The girl asks for an explanation for why they are there, and the hero questions if she hasn't noticed anything unusual. To Mo Yun, they seem like ordinary level 3 monsters, but the hero asks if she's ever seen goblins patrolling and gathering information. Finally, she realizes these monsters might belong to an organized group. Later, the ground starts trembling, prompting Mo Yun to ask if they should check it out, but the hero insists they don't have time. Hao Han then asks how her clothes regenerated so quickly, and the girl explains it's because of an item. At that moment, something catches the hero's attention, prompting him to activate his armor. The girl asks why the equipment is activated, and the hero says it wasn't intentional. He explains that the blue dragon armor automatically activates when danger is near. This puts Mo Yun on high alert, knowing that something bad is approaching. Naturally, she becomes desperate to know what's going on, but the hero asks her to stay quiet. Slowly, something approaches until it passes by them, revealing itself to be a huge armored monster. Without causing any trouble, it moves past them, thanks to their decision to hide. The hero then comments that he didn't know his armor had such a useful function. Talking about the monster, the girl asks what level it is because she's never seen such a terrifying presence. In response, the hero says he'll take a closer look, but Mo Yun questions if he's crazy to face such a powerful enemy. The protagonist replies that the deeper they go, the harder it will get, so it's better to take the opportunity to level up while they can. Continuing, Hao Han notes that since the monster didn't see them, its perception is weak, and he asks Mo Yun to follow him. He also mentions that if things go south, they can always run, and the girl agrees to go with him. In another area, within the group of assassins, Liu comments that he has a bad feeling. He explains that Hao Han should be nearby and should have killed the small monsters they just encountered. To explain the situation, the hooded one suggests there might be a fork in the tunnel, but Liu insists that's impossible. The blonde one then asks if Liu is suggesting that Hao Han deliberately left them to deal with the goblins. But before he can finish his sentence, a fireball hits the blonde's face, leaving his teammates terrified. In front of the two remaining assassins stands the armored monster from earlier. However, since it's not Hao Han, the boys begin to realize the problem they'll have to deal with. Without caring anymore, the assassin charges forward, using his offensive snake skin ability. With his extreme speed, he believes defeating high-level enemies will be simple. Unexpectedly, the monster precisely targets the assassin's position and strikes with an energy blast. The boy becomes the second to be defeated by the armored monster. Seeing this, Liu decides to intervene and uses a magical ring to cast a powerful spell that restores the assassin to his normal state. However, even with both of them fine, one is lying on the ground and the other lacks the offensive capacity to face such a powerful enemy. From a distance, our hero observes everything and Mo Yun believes that if they join the fight, they won't stand a chance. However, the protagonist finds it strange that such a powerful and extravagant attack didn't finish off the opponent. In this case, the girl asks if he's implying that the monster barks but doesn't bite. The hero explains that he believes the creature's true strength has yet to be revealed, but Mo Yun wonders where Hao Han got this popcorn. After getting up, the assassin asks his teammate what they'll do now. Liu explains that since they don't stand a chance at long range, he'll provide support while the hooded one gets closer. Commanding his teammate to attack, Liu activates the magical power of the ring, and the assassin says he's counting on him. In response, the monster fires a blue energy blast, but the mage provides support again, opening portals in front of the boy to block the attacks. Seeing this, Mo-yun comments that the teamwork is working, and the hero believes it will force the monster to reveal more of its strength. Without further delay, the assassin prepares to attack, sarcastically asking if the monster will still act arrogant this time. But before delivering a successful strike, the creature places its hands on the ground, altering the terrain. By creating some stone spikes, it manages to deal critical damage to the assassin. This terrifies the mage, realizing they're dealing with a dual attribute monster. The girl, on the other hand, increasingly thinks this is a terrible opponent because it waited to reveal its trump cards. Suddenly, the hero calls for the system, making Wangxing question why. He explains that to face this opponent without relying on the luck of the cards, he'll need something useful from her treasure. In response, the system reports that it searched but only found one good item, a fusion furnace capable of combining two weapons into a better one. Although it's not a weapon itself, the hero understands it's better than nothing. Regardless, the system questions how it will be used since the boy doesn't have weapons, and Ha-Han asks if it can be used on any kind. Wangxing confirms this but still wonders where the protagonist will find the necessary items. Then the hero comments with a mischievous smile that there's a volunteer right ahead. Back at the center of the battle, the mage is desperate, not wanting to die in this place. Before completely losing consciousness, the assassin urges his companion to flee. Unexpectedly, the protagonist appears, introducing himself and leaving the man utterly terrified. This makes Mo-yun question what this idiot is doing by going over there. Wisely, the assassin pleads to be saved, claiming he can be useful, but Ha-Han states he'll only consider saving them if they hand over all their weapons. In response, the hooded man warns that even if he hands them over, the hero won't be able to use them, but Ha-Han tells him not to worry about that. At this point, the blonde man named Xian Feng wakes from his knockout state and agrees to the deal. Regardless of the conditions, the mage only begs for help to come as quickly as possible. As expected, all the noise attracts the monster's attention, making the assassin panic. Without delay, Kyan throws some item medallions toward the hero. Among them are 3 A-rank items: the Demon Slayer sword, the Moon Blade, and the Star Chaser axe. However, the protagonist finds this collection disappointing for not including any S-rank items. Thus, the blonde man plays his final card, his most prized possession. It's the blood-drinking sword of the underworld, which finally satisfies the hero. Meanwhile, the hooded man shouts at his companion to hold on because he will rejoin the fight after handing over the weapons. But left alone in the combat zone at close range, the mage is knocked out. The hero then slyly remarks that the monster is getting closer. With no other options, the assassin surrenders 2 S-rank and 3 A-rank items, all of his possessions. The protagonist declares there's no longer anything to worry about because this is the moment to witness a miracle. With another energy surge, the monster prepares a powerful ground attack capable of sealing the entire cave. But Ha-Han counters it with his newest weapon, cutting through all the spikes emerging from the ground, giving the assassin newfound hope. The weapon he receives is called the S-rank Fallen God, and the hero comments that he's already quite fond of it. Witnessing such power, Mo-yun wondered in her mind why the boy hadn't used the sword earlier. Even though he now has a decent weapon, the protagonist knows he must be cautious due to the level difference. Regardless, he decides to test the sword, and with a precise strike, he freezes the monster entirely. The hooded man grows excited about the turn the battle is taking. But as expected, the monster breaks free from the ice prison with little effort. Unfortunately for the protagonist, something suggests the creature has become even harder to defeat. Now surrounded by flaming energy, the monster forges a weapon from lava, which the hero finds overly extravagant. Without hesitation, the monster charges and attacks with spear martial arts techniques, creating a wave of lava. The blonde man screams, thinking they're utterly doomed. In response, the hero asks the warrior not to speak such pessimistic words so soon and unleashes his ice domain to intercept the lava. As the two waves collide, a large boulder blocks the monster's view. From within it, an ice spike pierces through the creature's chest, exactly as planned by the hero. However, the celebration is short-lived as Ha-Han quickly notices the monster is still standing. Now its expression is far more terrifying than before. The hero swiftly asks the system for information about the creature, as it has now shifted its attribute to metal. The answer is discouraging. Since the game went out of control, the creature became independent. The monster attempts a rapid charge, and the hero defends with everything he has, knowing he can afford to be hit. The system warns that a weakness must be found, as no character in the game is completely invulnerable. Back where the assassin is trapped, he asks why his companion is pulling him with less and less force. Suddenly, Liu collapses, leaving him confused once more. The mage admits he feels his strength gradually fading, which is extremely strange. Unexpectedly, the assassin begins to understand this feeling because it's happening to him as well. The protagonist overhears the conversation about how they are gradually becoming weaker. He asks the system if there is any item capable of stopping this health decline. Quickly, Wangxing pulls out 3 purification waters from her inventory. Ha-Han then shouts for Mo-yun to appear, and the girl shows up, asking what she needs to do. In response, the hero throws the purification waters to her, leaving the girl confused. Han explains that he has found the monster's weakness and needs Mo Yun to make the three of them drink the vials within 20 seconds. Demonstrating its full power, the monster once again breaks free from the ice prison. Quickly, the girl fulfills her task of making the warriors drink the purification water. The hooded one asks if drinking this will really work. The hero explains that for a monster that grows stronger as the battle progresses, it can only be draining the strength of its opponents. Back to the creature, it changes its attributes again and attacks with fire. Seeing this, the hooded one panics and asks how they'll defend themselves this time. The protagonist assures them that as long as he's there, he won't let anyone die. As he advances little by little, the boy becomes more tired and Mo Yun questions why the potion hasn't taken effect yet. The hero asks if, by any chance, she forgot to give it to someone. The girl admits she did because Liu Mang was defeated by the monster on the other side of the battlefield. In this case, she asks how she can reach him, and the hero simply tells her to hold on tight. Very confused, Mo Yun asks what the protagonist is planning to do. As a massive fireball approaches, she yells for him not to act recklessly. Using his armor's shield, the hero manages to block the fire, but to counterattack, he has to let go of Mo Yun. This allows the girl to reposition herself, and for the first time, the monster speaks, complaining about the wounds on its noble body. The creature grabs the hero's ice sword and throws him against the wall with full force. The monster then advances to finish the job, delivering continuous blows. Faced with this, the hero understands that if any punch lands, he'll be dead, so he pleads for his armor to hold on. The monster comments on the protagonist's paladin armor, saying it underestimated him, but it believes that with its next attack, no defense will be able to block it. Unexpectedly, the hero starts laughing, leaving the monster confused about what's so funny. The hero declares that the creature should have finished him earlier because now it has no chance. This is because, while they were fighting, Mo Yun managed to reach the other side and complete her mission. The monster then realizes that its sacrifices have all been destroyed. Before it can lament its loss, the hero charges a powerful ice attack and declares himself the creature's opponent. When hit, the monster suffers because without its sacrifices, it cannot use its abilities. Before dying, it pleads for help from the Demon King, but its fate does not change. With the battle over, Mo Yun sighs in relief as this was a very difficult fight. However, the protagonist can't stop thinking about the monster's last words regarding the existence of a demon god in this mine. With the victory, the system congratulates the player for defeating the level 20 boss, the Emperor of the Fortress of Darkness. However, the window also asks the boy to choose which team members will gain experience, leaving him confused. Wang Shane explains that a group was detected in this battle, but since it wasn't registered, the final blow dealer gets to decide. This means that even if a team is formed later, they can still share experience. Hearing what Hao Han is saying about being able to gain something, the three warriors become interested. But as a clever trickster, the hero distorts the system's explanation, saying that only registered teams can share experience. Regardless, the three don't mind and kneel, acknowledging that the heroes saved their lives. The girl comments that it's a shame they didn't meet earlier. In response, the boys also pay respect to their new sister-in-law, which leaves her furious. Unexpectedly, the hero finds the three quite proactive and decides to form a real team. Naturally, none of them decline the request, thrilled at the opportunity. However, despite Quan, Liu, and Hu being in the group, the system warns that one more person is needed to complete it. Mo Yun then offers to join the team as well, and the boys accept, once again calling her sister-in-law. In response, she clearly expresses her bloodlust and warns them not to call her that again. Changing the subject, the girl asks if the hero knows the rules about forming teams, to which he admits he doesn't. She explains that forming teams and joining guilds are different things because a guild is a loose organization that can be dissolved. A team, on the other hand, prevents members from attacking one another with penalties and doesn't allow leaving for at least 3 months, which Hao Han finds ideal. It's further explained that there's a synergy effect among team members, with enhancements that can stack and reductions applied to all if a member dies. The protagonist believes that forming a team is great because it can increase combat power. However, Mo Yun explains that even with all 4 of them together, they'll still be overshadowed by the hero, so she asks what he plans to do when descending further into the mine. Kian, for his part, is determined to help as long as he can level up, while the other 2 say they can deliberately lose to ensure the hero's victory. The protagonist compliments their actions, saying their efforts with the Emperor were essential to achieving victory. Although Mo Yun doesn't entirely agree, the 3 are moved by being acknowledged. The girl thinks it's pointless to argue and that she'll have to deal with an overly optimistic and naive ally. Regardless, Hao Han activates level distribution, raising everyone by 1 level. Mo Yun advances directly from level 18 to 20, while our hero reaches level 22. The blonde man is impressed by this growth, and the assassin realizes more than ever how arrogant they had been. However, the girl scolds the hero for distributing levels, pointing out he could have exceeded level 25. The hero dismisses this concern, saying there are even stronger monsters, so they should hurry to achieve their objective. On the way, Hu suggests they should have a name, to which Hao Han replies he'll think about it. In a different region, Zhao observes the group agreeing to terms that prevent internal betrayals. X asks how many survivors remain, and the professor reports that with 5 hours and 14 minutes left, there are only 18 left. The closer they get to the bottom, the higher the casualties, making it difficult to predict if anyone will return alive. Moreover, this group is X's last hope. If they fail to uncover what lies at the bottom, he'll have to use his special resource. Suddenly, a staff member nervously asks what's wrong with one of the players. Unexpectedly, a competitor appears at the deepest part of the mine. In this region, a portal begins to form and a person emerges from within. A mage begins boasting about his ability to teleport up to 1,000 meters. However, something ahead catches his attention, leaving him confused as to what it might be. Back with the main group, Twain defeats some goblins crossing his path. Proud of his strength, he sarcastically mocks how such weak monsters dare to face him. After searching for a while, the heroes still can't find the passage to the next level, prompting Mo Yun to suggest they'll have to create their own path. The situation is concerning as there are numerous forks in the path, making it harder to decide which way to go. Liu asks what he was doing as he stretches nearby. Hu explains that if this is a maze, he's the most suitable to find the way out. He then asks the mage if he's forgotten his nickname and takes off at high speed, declaring himself the Sonic Assassin. The hooded man announces he'll come back to call the others when he finds the way. The hero, puzzled, asks what happened and why Hu suddenly disappeared, to which Kian explains he fell into a hole. The group rushes to the passage where the assassin entered, calling out his name. Upon arrival, Mo Yun observes that this barricade was recently set up to prevent other participants from discovering the passage. Fortunately, Hu Taiming broke through it while speeding through, leading Liu to question the sportsmanship of the other players. Regardless, the blonde man suggests they should quickly search for the assassin. However, the hero senses something strange about the hole, prompting the others to ask what kind of feeling it is. Without hesitation, Hao Han points out that the marks on the hole's excavation are fresh and don't seem like something left behind. The blonde then realizes it looks like the work of a machine, but it's unlikely that any competitor has something like that. The hero agrees, thinking that no one would bring excavation equipment to a place like this. In another area, Liu Bo, level 16, walks nonchalantly until he is ambushed by stealthy spiders from behind. However, all of them are annihilated by his ability, which transforms his hand into a drill. Suddenly, another enemy appears, the cave venom spider, level 18. This makes Liu Bo very concerned about encountering the floor boss so quickly. Regardless, he activates his armor, which transforms his entire body into metallic drills. He then charges forward, declaring that it doesn't matter what type of monster is as long as it can be pierced. At the same time, elsewhere, the assassin wakes up after falling during his search for the path. He hears cheerful voices approaching his group, happy to have found him. However, Hu shouts at the others not to descend to where he is, but he has no time to explain. The ground collapses again due to the fragmented rocks from the excavation, but luckily, nothing worse happens. The blonde tells his teammate to get out quickly so they can move on. As everyone regroups, the hero warns them to be cautious because whoever is responsible for the excavation must be nearby. Switching focus, Mo Yun alerts them that she smells a strong scent of blood, so Hao Han decides to investigate. Where Liu Bo had been, the boy is now defeated, and some monsters remark on how powerful he was. However, the sport priest, level 24, has yet to find the mage the emperor ordered him to locate. The vine bone, level 22, complains about the holes Liu Bo inflicted on its body, but the mushroom tells it to shut up, saying it will heal soon. Suddenly, the spore priest senses someone approaching, drawing his attention. The vine bone finds this warning strange as it can't detect anything. The priest begins to wonder if he's just imagining things. However, as he remarks that he'll simply return to searching for the mage, the assassin appears behind him. He delivers a brutal slash to both, prompting the vine bone to realize someone is indeed there. Despite this, the hooded one feels a bit uneasy about not finishing them off in one blow. Kigan then joins the fight, attacking several more times and tearing the monster apart. The blonde mocks his teammate, saying he already knew he wasn't capable. But Hu refuses to admit defeat, claiming he assisted in the kill. Regardless, the hero thanks the mage for alerting them to the demons. Liu explains that his ability comes from his soul stabilizer ring, which always warns of danger. This power is demonstrated when the gem suddenly begins to glow again, leaving the boy confused. Kian suggests the item might be malfunctioning, recalling that it didn't glow during the Emperor's attack. However, Liu insists that his soul stabilizer ring never makes mistakes. At that moment, the vine bone appears behind Liu, asking if they were the ones who defeated the Emperor. Chaos ensues, and before they can react, the monster captures all three warriors. Quickly, our hero charges in with Mo Yun and tells her to rescue the boys while he fights. With a sword attack, the protagonist manages to freeze the monster, allowing the girl to free the warriors. Mo Yun tosses Chuan to Liu as he is the most injured, and Liu catches him. Slowly, the monster begins to break free from the ice prison, so the hero launches freezing spikes that pierce it. With its arms severed, the vine bone also gains several holes in its chest. Hao Han declares that he will make the monster pay for harming his teammate tenfold. While the hero buys time, Liu heals Quan's wounds. The monster screams, calling the hero a brat, and is pierced again by ice blades, causing immense pain. The hero then warns that since the creature regenerates infinitely, he'll leave it trapped. Unable to endure anymore, the vine bone screams, asking if the mushroom won't help him. In this way, the hero realized he had overlooked the presence of another monster. Upon analyzing the creature's aura, Haohan's instincts warned him that this was a dangerous opponent. However, there's no chance to escape now as the priest joins the fight, declaring that the show is about to begin. Both Hugh and Mo Young are left puzzled as to how the two monsters are still alive. At that moment, the mushroom attacks with its magic, causing immense pain to everyone. The priest then announces that they are all already infected, but suddenly, Haohan appears behind him. The mushroom praises the boy's quick decision to confront him despite being unaware of the consequences. Unbothered, the hero prepares an ice attack, causing a massive explosion. But he quickly realizes the attack didn't work, and with a serious expression, the monster calls the boy a novice. Moreover, the monster remarks that the hero's small protective armor barrier won't stop anything. Gathering a mass of dark energy, the monster launches it at the boy, who defends himself with his shield. However, even with the barrier active, some fragments of the magic manage to penetrate and touch Haohan, forcing him to retreat. The mushroom compliments the hero's reflexes but warns that it's futile, because now the spores will begin multiplying inside the boy's body. The system recommends an immediate retreat as Haohan's armor is not suited for battling a long-range poison-type opponent. But the effects of the spores were already taking hold as Hugh's hand turned to stone, and within seconds, the boy's entire body was petrified. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Juicy Channel.